Okay, we are starting now 40 minutes in. I hate myself so much. Anyways, hello, people. We're doing a podcast again. I was talking to the audience, sir. We are doing a podcast again. We're talking about some shows, probably mostly romance shows. I am doing podcasts again, so I'm inviting new people. I'm going to have you two introduce yourselves. R.A., go. Introduce yourself real quick.
Hello, everyone. I'm Resplendent Analeptic. I think that's how I pronounce my own name on Twitter.
I was actually kind of excited to hear you say it because I didn't know either.
I don't say it very often. But yeah, I'll just be referenced preferably as this RA. It's just way easier. I have a Twitter profile and I produce nothing on it. I just retweet things basically and make an occasional joke. So there's no book or YouTube channel or anything to follow. So I guess if you like Sailor Moon and Lum retweets, a decent enough profile for that. I don't know, Green.
Okay.
Why do you follow me?
I don't know because you like everything I do. You're just very supportive of me, I guess. Yes, you're a guy that I know, and that is fine. Okay, John, who are you? Tell us who you are real quick.
My name's John. I like puns, and I've been getting into anime the last couple years, so I'm here to talk about it.
Me and John were talking about Fantasy Knockout, which was a show I didn't watch and don't care about that much, but it was kind of fun. So we watched that show. And that gave me the idea to talk about some romance shows probably. So we're going to talk about this. Fantasy Knockout was fun. It's about two guys who are about 30, and they're office salary guys in Japan. And they get isekai'd by a goddess who uses their words against them and turns one into a hot lady and turns the other one into him, but he has superpowers. And they spend the whole time complaining about this for some reason.
No, the idea is she curses them to fall in love with each other, but they don't want to admit it to the other person because because they don't want. That's kind of weird, but they don't want to destroy the friendship.
Yeah. Although I did notice when she curses
we're all going to go to Twitter jail.
Exactly what the curse was.
Right.
Exactly.
That hasn't been specified yet, so that's just what it looks like it is. So we don't know for sure.
I think that's what the
doesn't
curse
specify
is.
that either. But
the curse is that she made them comfortable in their sexuality, and they actually felt this way about each other the whole time. It's just she gave them the confidence to admit it. Eventually,
have they? Serious question, because I've only gotten through 3 episodes of it. I obviously understand the characters and basic premise, and I don't mind spoilers either. To be honest, it's a romantic comedy. You know what's going to happen at the end,
right?
It's just how it gets
before
there.
Hoes instead of.
No, bros are hoes here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the hoe is a bro, so it's yeah.
It's just bros, but they put an H after the R. It's the same
H
word.
is silent.
Yeah, as it should be. Oh,
is the show ongoing still, or is it done?
That it's not. They haven't said there's not going to be anymore, but the one season that's been produced is done.
Oh, okay, got it. So did they reveal the curse at the end of the first season? Oh, okay, all right. So
that hasn't been specified. I've also read the manga all the way up to where it is right now, and it still hasn't been explicitly outlined. So.
Have they had sex yet?
Also, no.
No, of course not.
Oh, right. It's anime. I forgot.
Yeah, the first kiss is going to happen in the last episode.
I hate that so much.
Or second to last episode. You're not getting. You see, the good thing about his and her circumstances is that you don't have to wait until the end of the show for them to consummate their relationship. There's a million other reasons why that's a great show. It doesn't happen in like the first episode, okay, but like you don't have to wait until the very end to get that payoff. Anyway, so I was just concerned that like, you know, you might already know the nature of the curse and we don't just by virtue of having finished it. But okay. Yeah, at first I didn't like the idea of the curse, and but the more I thought about it, the more I did actually end up liking it. It does actually muddy things pretty nicely in regards to just not, you know, what is their true feelings and what is not.
Right.
So, and it's ripe for conflict, and then they're trying, and then they don't want to reveal what they think is the nature of the curse, because if they speak out loud about it, it's like, hey, guy, is a curse falling in, just hypothetical, right? Is a curse like falling in love? And it's like, oh, it's like you've already laid your cards on the table if you say that.
Why would you ask such a thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they did muddy it a little bit because the girl, this is a show, it is not that derivative. It is extremely obvious the person who made it is a fan of Konosuba.
Okay.
That wouldn't surprise me. The manga started in 2019, so it's pretty
there's
new.
so many, and there's so many little memes. Like, they actually use the phrase shitty goddess to refer to the person who put him there several times. There are the trappings of a video game RPG system that doesn't really come up, which is the Konosuba thing, where 99% of the time in Konosuba, you forget it's supposed to be a video game. It's just a fantasy world. Then all of a sudden it's, experience points. It's like, fuck, I forgot. We were doing that.
Yeah. I think this show actually does say video game interfacing like a tiny bit better. Or at least it comes up a little bit more often. It seems like with Konosuba it comes up like twice. It's like in the most iconic moment when it comes up in Konosuba is when Aqua's bragging about her intelligence and how her stats should have been maxed from the start. And it's like, oh, honey, no.
They come up a few more times in the Konosuba novels past where the anime has gotten to, but it's not a prominent thing.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't like super prominent, but like the charm thing coming up pretty often. It actually has real world repercussions. It's kind of fun. I like it.
It doesn't get stale. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and interrupting happens. You just kind of whoever is less sexually aggressive just says, "Oh, you go."
Go ahead.
That's how it happens. hey, wait a second.
Oh no! I'm going to jail, dog.
Yeah, I know. I mean, you are saying that I have a Hajikuji PFP right there, but. With the video game stuff, they did do it a little bit more, and that is one problem with the show. They lean into the mechanics just enough to make it a little confusing, where her cuteness is explicitly a power in this. Mm-hmm. They have to, when she goes around, every man who sees her immediately falls in love or proposes marriage, and she can manipulate them. It happens constantly. The first conflict in the show is just there are crowds of people following them around because they're all magically enamored with the girl. But then they can't admit to each other, oh, I find you attractive. Because at this point, they open her stats, they see that her power in the video game system is being cute.
Well, there's some throwaway lines about how it changes his preferences for women.
Yeah, but it doesn't make you gay if the video game rules of the world say you're attracted to the person.
Right.
That is one place it gets a little muddied.
You also have to take into consideration Junguji's character is I can't praise women or compliment them.
Oh, right. Man after my own heart.
Yeah. There's that one line, I have never complimented a woman in all of the time you have known me.
And he's like, maybe my memory isn't working that well, but that sounds plausible, actually.
Yeah.
One thing I mean, again, this might be the curse or it might not be, right? But it seems a little bit, again, I've only watched 3 episodes, and again, I don't mind about spoilers. It still seems the attraction still seems a little bit one-sided, right? Like, they are definitely both attracted to each other, and the beginning of the show makes that, explicitly clear. But, he's freaking out in regards to, I can't even, look at this chick dude's face, my friend's face, right, without, completely losing it. She notices some things early on as well too. But I mean, he's never been attracted to women. He's basically gay, right? He is gay.
Well, it's either that or he just dislikes women's nature. It's not really explicitly said that he's gay, but that is an easy takeaway.
I think he's just an alpha machine where he's too.
That's possible
focused
too.
On goals. I think it's just he is bored with people.
But he says that his heart finds joy, a resting place in being with him. No.
Right. Well, it's kind of like when you have your friend that gets a girlfriend, you don't get to hang out with him as much. It's like, hey, we had this bros thing going on. It doesn't necessarily have to be a gay thing. It could be, but
right. No,
that's not really specified.
No, I totally agree with you. It's not it's not specified. It's just what I took away from it. But now he's suddenly attracted to a woman for like the first time. And then she never makes it clear, at least, that while she has wanted to, he has wanted to be a woman, and now he's a woman because he said that in his drunken state. But he seems to make it clear that he's, in terms of his like internal monologue, that he's not attracted to men. Like it could be implied that, the other one is gay, right? It's not, again, specified. But in this particular case, he's going to the mixers, to get some help, basically, and trying to get attention from women. It doesn't seem to be implied that he would be gay.
Right.
And yet he is attracted to, suddenly as a woman, to him in the world. So it's like, is that the curse? It would seem like it would it kind of seems like it would have to be the curse, because there's just I just don't see it in like his motivations or his character, why just because he turned into the body of a woman, which again is something that he wanted, right?
Technically,
why he would be attracted to him. Also, I don't know their names. So it's going to get really hard.
It took me like 5 episodes to remember their names, so don't feel bad about that.
It's glasses guy and chick.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to basically use to do.
I didn't even do glasses. I just did guy and chick. It's just the male and the female character.
Yeah.
Who cares? I will say it's a... Oh, fuck, what was I going to say? Oh, damn it. Fuck, I have this.
We were talking about the curse and how it's...
Oh, yeah, the curse. I do... Just to make sure it's abundantly clear, the curse is, when they get transported, the two friends, the smaller, weaker, effeminate one is drunk and falling on his face. He can't hold his liquor. That's a recurring thing in the show. And he just mumbles to himself going, man, I wish I was a hot girl. My life would be good. And that becomes the ironic basis for the thing. I don't know if it's a deep desire that he wants to be an attractive girl. It might have just been he was rejected at that moment. So how
the way it's presented
is
to
unclear.
Me definitely comes more like I'm just having a shitty day, so I said something in a drunken stupor, not like this is a deep-rooted desire that I've had for my entire life.
But don't they say that it's that being drunk is when you actually speak your deepest desires? It's so. I agree. I totally understand the perspective, and there's probably a lot more behind your argument here, that it was just kind of an offhand thing that the goddess misinterpreted, which is really funny.
Right. I mean, the whole thing is because she misinterpreted literally everything about that instance.
It's like when fucking Esau trades the kingdom of Israel for the magic beans or whatever.
Yeah.
Or a really good one. Hey, do you guys want to talk about Hinduism for 20 seconds?
Sure.
Sure, go ahead.
A really good one is in the Bhagavad Gita, which the whole theme of the Bhagavad Gita is following God and trying to do the right thing will only make your life worse. It will never accomplish anything. It only causes problems. Do it anyway. It's like Job. It's like the book of Job if Job was really self-aware and funny. Comparison. Yeah, well, kind of, but it admits it's a farce. Like Job, it's all mysterious. You do not know my ways. And then in Hinduism, it's just like, yeah, God, life is fucking silly. Who gives a shit?
Well, isn't it? Never mind. I literally don't know anything about it, so I'm not going to have the.
Well, I don't know that much, but there's a great part in the Bhagavad Gita where the 5 brothers who are, the mystical heroes of the show, they go to, I think it's an archery competition, and the prize is a woman. And the youngest, the protagonist of the story, he competes and he wins and he gets the woman and takes her as a wife. And all the brothers, they go back to their house. They walk in the door and the protagonist is being all cheeky. He yells, "Hey, Mom, want to see what I won at the competition today?" And the mother is scrubbing dishes, doesn't look behind her and yells, "That's fine, just share it with your brothers." And because the words of elders are binding in ancient Hinduism, they enter a polygamous marriage where they all share the woman. And that is the driving force of like the rest of the story.
Oof.
Yeah, that should be an anime. That would actually be a great anime. Hinduism, you know what? India needs to start making anime. The Bhagavad Gita would actually be a really funny... I don't know about that one. No, this is what this is about now. The Bhagavad Gita would be a great anime. Fucking get on it, India. I want to see Bhishma pierced by the 60 arrows, talking about how it's okay to lie to women for 200 episodes.
Yeah, but wouldn't Indians consider their, at least practitioners of it, consider their religion sacred? And
no, India does. Indian religion is funny. You're allowed to have fun with it. They made a TV show, like the most famous Indian TV show of all time is the drama they did of the Bhagavad Gita.
Okay. Well, turning it into cute anime girls, I would think that they might find offensive. I don't know, but like you can't get away with hitting a cow. So in the whole cut, so it's like it would seem to imply some level of religious fervor. I would think so. I don't know. I can't speak to it.
Yeah, but the point of this was, I don't know what the point was. Oh yeah, it was an ironic. Yeah, but the curse that they put them in is an ironic thing where it's unclear. I do think that of the main characters, the weak one who becomes a woman, I think it's more he has, I don't know, an effeminate. He's just someone who's been beaten down by life, where the fact that he's not masculine and cool consistently fails him in situations. And that's why he looks up to his friends so much. I think it's more a general sense of, masculinity fails me all the time. I wish I could just not have to try to be masculine.
Yeah.
In an abstract way, I think it's there. I don't think it's as viscerally real as, I want to be a woman specifically. I want to be 5'2", have blonde hair.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the show actually kind of made a good point about it. I think it's when all the bandits are killing each other over her. Yeah. And then he comes over and is like, there's some part of you that actually enjoys this, right? Because she is actually getting validation for the first time in terms of like their physical appearance and their desirability, which is, you could also argue, is kind of a inbuilt feature of just being a woman.
Yes.
Right? or being a remotely attractive woman, is that you get this validation, the stereotype that guys are just, tripping over themselves to be a part of your life, while the other way around, it's just like the lonely male, right? Who, gets no bitches and stacks no paper, right? Thing. Yep. So yeah, I'm glad that it like openly acknowledged that it is working to her benefit to some extent, and there is some level of, no matter how horrible the actions of people are around that, it's like, wow, I actually matter for the first time in my fucking life,
right?
To other people other than my best friend.
Yeah, and with the best friend, it's also interesting because it's unclear. It might be the curse, to an extent it's the power, but their dynamic is odd. It actually reminds me about what you hear about yaoi, where yaoi is specifically gay relationships that have the male-female dynamic. They somehow made this a reverse yaoi or something somehow. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, this feels like a yaoi.
But one thing that's interesting is they actually tend to be very male and female in terms of how they like each other, where the man character, he is very explicitly sexually attracted to the other person. And when I say sexually, it's more broad than that. Romantically. Like, it's very clearly the feelings that a man would have for a woman that he was into, where it's this all-consuming, just entrancement with like, oh, I want to cuddle them. They're so cute. I just want to cuddle them. They're great. And the other one has this meandering, confused infatuation hero worship, which they don't completely understand, and it very slowly emerges as romantic attraction, where the pattern for male-female relationship was already kind of there. It's just kind of manifesting. And it's weird to have one character be totally okay processing, oh yeah, I want to fuck my friend right in the vagina. That's what I want to do. I want to take my bro, and I want to rub his pretty little head, and I want to cum in it. But the idea of it being a deeper romantic thing, he hasn't really processed, even though their friendship is kind of romantic anyway. Yep. Then on the other side, they're very slow to process that there's a physical component to this, but the way they feel about them is already kind of like a boyfriend.
Right.
Yeah, they kind of exclusively have each other's time and attention based on
it's kind of the overall joke is that it was almost like they were already dating to begin with.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is just the excuse to push them in that direction.
Yeah, by default, whether they realize it or not, they basically were dating.
And it's really funny where there are a few shows where it feels like they're unmasking something that already existed within the culture. I feel like this show, it's not, I don't love this show. It's a perfectly fine show. I enjoyed it. I'm probably going to keep up with it for a bit. But what I really like is it feels like it is unmasking this. It's one of those things that we all kind of know subconsciously, but no one says, where all these like lonely young men in the world who are just hanging out with other young lonely men, there's a little thing at the base of their spine like, I could just fuck my friends. But no one wants to be the first one to say it. You see, this show is the reality of the human condition.
Well, maybe a very specific set of societal conditions. I don't think it's like general human condition, but no.
Oh darn, I can't get a woman. I wish I could just fuck my friends instead. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. I'm sure there is a sizable subset of the population that would fall right into that.
Well, we don't know how many gay people are like that gay,
Right. Well, is it really gay if you're like, I wish I was a woman? Is it really gay at that point?
Wait, I don't know. But if you're thinking, man, I wish my best friend was a woman, then that is probably kind of gay.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was going at it from the other way.
No, you know what? The impulse of I wish I could be fucked by my best friend versus I wish I could fuck, those are probably very different impulses.
Probably.
Am I making it weird?
I cannot say I've ever given that too much thought, but
yeah, I like. Do we actually want to talk a little bit about just like how we? Maybe we're already there, like what we just in general like about the show. But I think, I think I probably like the show more than you do, Green. I thought it would be a slightly above average, like seasonal. I actually ended up liking it way more than it deserves. I wouldn't say it's great. I mean, like the animation is nothing to write home about.
But it's not bad either.
The design, it's not great either. Like some of the design work, like the guy with the glasses, like that's a good design. I don't think the chick is that hot, to be honest. Like any Konosuba character, basically, other than like a total side character, doesn't matter.
Well, that's
objectively. Well, I mean, is it cheating? Yeah, but it's like, it is an isekai. Like, the sixth hottest character in Konosuba is. I almost feel like they're just telling me that she's really attractive, rather than like I would never have a figure of that chick, and it has nothing to do with like body type or anything like that. It's just like she's just super. She's fine. They're just kind of telling me that she's hot.
Well, you also have to remember she has been given the blessing for everybody to consider her beautiful too. So
you're right. There is some in-universe explanation for why people are falling over her, and it doesn't make any sense. But I mean, you would think that they would try and make her something that would be worth spending $200 to $300 on a figure or something, and it just wasn't. But I also kind of don't like the show because, kind of for some of the same reasons that Green is talking about here. It's like some of the implications here are just a level of the human psyche that I'm just not interested in going down this road.
That's fair.
It's like, is there truth to it? Probably. It's like, do I really want to like unravel this onion? No, I really don't want to unravel this onion.
Those are the shows that always get me. It's the ones that are kind of giving you a wink and a nod, going, "Let me tell you what's really going on." It has a right to exist. I respect it on some level for willing to go about it, because it's kind of it's an isekai, but it's kind of a yaoi. It's kind of a trans person thing as well too, while also being a isekai rom-com. Like, the point of anime is making stuff that makes normies uncomfortable, and this would definitely, I think, make normies. Even though it's actually not.
It's actually pretty tame about how it handles.
It's way more tame than Konosuba. Way more tame.
Right. Well, Konosuba leans heavy into the sexual jokes for most of its humor too. So
that's part of the problem with me. Was I feel like the show is working when the dynamic of two people literally being forced by the mechanics of the world to be attracted to each other and not wanting to admit it. That was funny. The little character moments between the mains is when the show is working for me. The big problem with me is just not enough happens in this world. Nothing in the world is interesting except the main characters and a few, maybe two of the side ones. And it's like 40% of the show is, is I'm a girl now hijinks. And then the other 60% is them exploring a world where it's just a little too obvious. There's no intrigue to the world other than the main characters, and the main characters aren't driving the events of what they're doing enough.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Not a lot. Again, you've seen more of it though than I have. I just really liked how, especially in the first 3 episodes, how there aren't a bunch of like fucking annoying side characters that I'm expected to give a shit. Like, it's just them basically, other than the elf chick who comes in and the elf queen or whatever in episode 3. It's basically just the 2 of them, and everyone else is a NPC basically. So I liked how focused that was in terms of their dynamic and just focusing on that and basically nothing else. Is the world that interesting? No. Like, is it that well designed? No. Does a lot happen? No, definitely not.
Yeah, it takes a little bit.
But there's so much like conflict just built into this scenario and then their prior relationship that it's like I'm fine with it not having distracting bullshit other side characters. I like that it's like basically just them.
And that is just my problem with the show, is whenever they're split up, it's just killing time until they're together again. And they get split up way too often. That's basically it.
Yeah, I don't think I've gotten to the part of the show yet where we get really split up. I think the only scenario where they got close to being split up was she was about to be kidnapped and then everyone asked to marry her, and then she got picked up by the plant.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Hey, RA, you know who never gets split up ever? The main characters in Midori Days.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
You want to talk about a segue?
Transition.
Yeah.
Smooth.
Midori Days, my favorite anime in the history of forever. Or actually, I don't watch the anime. I read the manga. But it's just best. It's the best IP in the history of the human race. RA, you should explain the premise of Midori Days real quick. And I'll be right back.
So the premise of Midori Days is there's kind of this delinquent high schooler who's somewhat violent and beats up all the other bullies. And he's a good guy and thugs. And then he has this supposed it's not an actual superpower, but his right hand packs a hell of a wallop, and always ensures that he wins in the schoolyard fights. And then one morning he wakes up, and he has I don't know if she actually goes to his school or not, but
no, it was a different school.
Goes to a different school. Oh yeah. But basically, this quiet chick who's had a crush on him for a while. He wakes up and she is his right hand, and
complete with boobs.
Complete with, yes. So there's no lower. Okay, there's nothing down there. Okay, but there is up there. And she knows who he is. She's like obviously shocked, but like overjoyed at the situation that she gets to be with her crush 24/7. Yeah. And he's obviously horrified at this initial situation. He has no idea who this person is and obviously what happened here. But it's a 12-episode show of them making it work, basically. And once he gets over his initial shock, obviously the shock is funny. It's really fucking funny. I thought that the gag of, someone suddenly appearing on your hand and you got to do everything together now and navigate hiding it would get old. No, it just doesn't get old. It's just funny the whole fucking time.
They managed to keep it fresh. Midori Days manages to find little ways of just the mechanics and the physics of how Midori works. They managed to use it in new ways enough. It's the exact perfect length for when they run out of ideas.
Because it's just the 12 episodes, right? There's not anything more than that.
Maybe 13. That's like 12.
It's one season, or half core, or one core,
whatever they call that now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why Japan uses the French numbering system for its fucking seasons.
I don't either.
Couldn't tell you. That was my brother.
That was not a funny observation at all, was it? Holy shit. Yeah, but Midori Days, here's the thing about Midori Days. Midori Days, it's nothing special in terms of, I don't know what it is, but the core concept of Midori Days is so impossibly perfect that it's the greatest story of all time. That's what I love about Midori Days. It's just having a girl be your hand is the funniest idea anyone has ever had, and it will never be defeated.
Well, unless you have a girl be your foot.
No, boo.
This is a brave new world we're entering.
The visual gags, I have to say real quick, my two favorite visual gags. Oh, one thing about Midori Days, she has the ability to kind of telepathically or telekinetically drag him around by flailing around and dragging him from the arm. In the manga, it's a little easier to buy into that because it's like, oh, in one panel they're here, and one they're here. Okay, I guess Midori made it happen somehow. It's a little weird to see him literally be dragged along like a rag doll by his arm, which is just floating in the air.
Yeah.
Look, I'm willing to let go of that suspension of disbelief when a person has already become somebody else's hand, so it's okay.
Oh, that's actually a good observation, sir.
Like, how did this happen? I don't know. Maybe the ability to drag the person around a little bit is not that weird.
Yeah, I would argue it's less weird than like Ratatouille, where he moves the strands of hair on the head to direct his arms and legs to do certain things. I mean, I'm not saying Midori Days isn't a freak show, okay? But I mean that in a loving way. But yeah, it's out of all the things in the show, that did not ruin my it did not harm my suspension of disbelief there. I'm not sure I agree with you that it's like the greatest story of all time, but it is pretty perfect for what it's doing. It is consistently fresh. It is a good idea that I haven't seen replicated, or at least either replicated or at least replicated well anywhere else. Yeah, it's just a fucking great time. And she's adorable. Going to the toy store and for like the trying to find the outfits and things like that, and then the interaction that he has, going to these places, it's fantastic. I wouldn't say again, best girl wins.
Yeah, that was hard.
But yeah, it was hard. Like I could totally understand if you feel different, but it is hard. Even if you're not rooting for her specifically to win, it hurts.
The worst part, I guess, spoilers for Midori Days. I mean, if it's been said once, it's been said 1,000 fucking times. If the name of the character is in the show, or if the title of if the name of the show is the name of the character, they're going to win.
Yeah.
It's okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah. The worst part though is when one of the love interests kind of accepts that she's not going to win. There's a moment where she's trying really hard to be strong for the other person. And she's like putting her fingertips together and being like, oh, it's okay. I can take this in stride. It's all good. And you just feel your heart break. It's just like, oh no.
Yeah, it sucks.
Like she's trying to be good.
It sucks.
Yes. Midori Days though, the two best jokes in Midori Days are this. One, there's a scene, I don't know if John got to it.
I only watched 3 episodes, so
probably not. There's a scene where someone attacks the main character with a samurai sword, does an overhead swing, and he flails his arm up, trying not to be killed. And his 2 fingers catch the sword, but it's Midori using her arms to catch the sword.
Yeah.
And everyone else sees that and goes, holy shit, this is why Seiji's the fucking man. He just stopped a sword with 2 fingers. And then there is my ultimate all-time favorite manga panel, the best manga panel ever made. If I ever am a rich, crazy man hoarding manga panel originals because I need something to do with my money, I don't want fucking Gold Experience Requiem. I don't want the dragon from Berserk. I want this panel. It's in the last few chapters, someone breaks into the house, they hear it, they stand up, Seiji grabs a frying pan, but Midori is the one holding it. So they're closing in on the burglar with Seiji's arm is Midori, who is holding a frying pan. and you see, that speaks... Oh, go.
No, and you're right. There's so much clever little details. It's so much fun. But no, go ahead. This is you're talking about your favorite manga panel of all time. I'm going to let you finish your thought here.
Yes. And to me, this captures what is good in a romance show. It's having the girl be your arm.
She's your right-hand man, woman.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally.
Like, it's kind of a metaphor. But I think the security of the relationship in Midori Days is part of what makes it interesting, where they literally cannot, like, they have no choice. At the very least, they have to be friends, or at least collaborators until the situation is resolved.
Right.
Like, they can't fight, they can't abandon each other. He can cut his fucking hand off and kill her. That's about the only way they could resolve this other than just making it work. And
they established that he's not the kind of person that would do that anyway, so...
Yeah, it's like, at least for a while, they're just stuck with each other. And I think that kind of is the fun of Midori Days. One thing about Midori's character that I really love is they established that Midori was kind of a wallflower until she got on his arm. And I think that shows, okay, Midori being in a situation where she wins automatically makes her more confident. And then she gets to, wake up the more energetic side of her. And I think that's fun. Then at the end, when, actually, I'm not going to tell you what happens. No, the show ends with her being on his arm forever. There is no ending.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I bet you thought that something happened. I bet you thought that a Native American came along and explained what was happening, and they found a magical solution. But no, the show ends with them being on there forever. No one learns any lessons.
Well, unfortunately, the preview for episode 13 spoils that that's not the case, so...
Okay. I do like they had a Native American. That's funny. They don't get to show up in anime very often.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
No, I think you make a good. That was an observation I did not make. So thank you for making it. Where I totally agree with you. At least I understood that she was a wallflower before, and she was just kind of watching him, and she basically never said anything. Not a lot of self-confidence, but like now that she has the thing that her heart's desire. Obviously not exactly as she would want it, but she has her heart's desire, right? She gets to spend literally all of her time with it. Now she can just be a normal person now. Now she can actually grow.
Right. It's kind of like, I'm good.
Yeah, she's
blossomed. I'll just be happy
basically.
That I have what I want and stuff.
So what I'm telling you guys is how to become the best version of yourself is achieve your heart's desire at any cost to anyone else. And then you're self-actualized, you reach your full potential. I think my favorite, again, I haven't read the manga, but I think my favorite moment
image.
It's maybe scene, but it's certainly not the funniest. It's because it's not meant to be funny, but was heartbreaking, but also wholesome as well. Remember when he's getting shit on by the gym instructor, and he puts the gym instructor's, basically being a masochist here and making him do a bunch, like 99 pull-ups or something. And he's so pissed off that he basically almost manages to do it, but he starts to flail in the last few, obviously. And she grabs a bar in his stead when he was falling off about to fail the test. Because he's like, I'm literally going to fail you for this class. You're not going to be able to graduate unless you do 99 pull-ups. And she grabs on as his right hand is falling off. And she's weak and things, but she keeps him in it. And it's so obviously strenuous and painful for her, but she's kind of happy too because she gets to help him. And I mean, it's a real testament to her strength of will and how much she cares about him. While you're also seeing her suffer so horribly for nothing that she shouldn't have to be doing, or at least her suffering in the sense that she's seeing him suffer and she's willing to suffer physically for him too. I mean, that sold me a lot more on her as someone who's worthy of, being his long-term romantic, partner, I guess. Anyway, is that on the manga? Is the scene where he's doing...
I haven't read Midori Days in 8 years.
Okay.
I love it. I remember a lot of it. There are parts I don't. One thing I love that is in the manga that is almost certainly not in the anime is the author inserted a few meta chapters about the writing of Midori Days. Mm-hmm. And it just shows them sitting in a cafe. And the person, and this is the number one reason to read the manga, because there's a few of these chapters, they're visited by the god of manga, who gives them divine inspiration and just starts transforming objects around them. The table they're in, turns into a bunch of hamsters or some shit. And then he takes them on adventures. We're going to go hang out with transvestites down at the pier, and they're going to teach you how to put sex appeal in your manga. And and that's going to inspire you to make Midori Days the greatest, sexiest manga of all time. He's all, thank you, manga god. Let's go hang out on the pier with the transvestites. Yeah, the manga author implies that his actual life is 50 times more interesting than the story. Because he's being visited by a trickster god. And it's so beautifully meta because Midori Days is the greatest manga of all time. So he was telling the truth. All that stuff did happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way of explaining it, right? I mean, how else could something like how else could such a work get produced without some type of intervention, right? Inspiration.
Yeah. I think the meta concept of this whole podcast is just talking about like why romance stories are good. And I think Midori Days is one of those good ones because, like I said, it really captures the strength of commitment could be a good way to put it. It's like if you have someone who is there for you absolutely to like they're just inherently invested in who you are. Mm-hmm. Like you cannot proceed without them. They cannot proceed without you. I think it's just that's just a very comfy feeling.
Yeah, like the question of whether or not there's loyalty there isn't really ever brought up then, or is that not what you mean?
Well, it actually never even really does come up. I think there are places where they wonder, okay, can this go on forever? Can you be on my hand forever? And as it goes along, I think more the fear is, I think they're both a little nervous about the prospect of finding a way to reverse the magic spell that made Midori his hand. Because there's kind of this fear of, is our relationship still going to be the same if Midori is not on my hand anymore?
Right.
Like, are we gonna have this fun dynamic if we're just normal humans?
Yeah, they kind of go through a crisis of not faith, crisis of it's kind of
anxiety.
Yeah. It's something like that. I'm not really sure how I would.
It's just like a fear of change, I would say.
The uncertainty of change.
Yeah, where they both know that what they have, that what they have is not complete, but I think they're both afraid of breaking what they have in the process of trying to get there.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's because if they get separated, there's no guarantee that like you said, their dynamic will be the exact same afterward. Will they still feel as strongly? You know, they've gone from a scenario where they've done literally every single thing together, and now they're two separate people with their own will, basically. I mean, their wills were separate, of course, but yeah, it works out very well for her. She got what she wanted, but obviously, to take things to the next level, like it's a very like comfortable scenario situation for her, and the prospect of it changing, things can get better, but things can get worse, right? Mm-hmm. You can't improve things. You can't get what you truly want to its highest level unless this is reversed. But now you kind of got to chase him all over again, right? And is he going to feel the same way about her if she's no longer on his hand?
Because they have a relationship of necessity, based on the situation.
He can jack off again.
Yeah, that's true. That is something of a joke. I think somewhere in there. I don't see how it wouldn't be a joke. He uses a joke somewhere.
They also make jokes about. You would assume. Wait, isn't it really hard to go to the bathroom together?
They definitely.
No, they go there.
Oh boy.
I forget how they do the bathing arrangement. They definitely. I'm almost certain that they.
I mean, there was a bathing scene in the third episode.
Okay.
I think he just closes his eyes.
Okay.
But she's in a towel at that point, and she's just scrubbing his back. So I don't know if there's more bathing scenes than that.
Probably fucking hurts.
Probably. There's probably more.
It's like getting arrested by a cop. Your arm is twisted behind you and you're pressed against the wall.
Yeah, it took me a second to realize that's where you were going with that.
Wait, what did you think I meant?
Well, I was trying to figure out what a cop had to do with twisting your arm behind your back, and then...
Someone's clearly never been arrested.
Yeah.
Jeez,
and
or been a prison guard. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways.
You caught me.
Yep.
Yeah, I would just, can I add one more thing? Green.
Have a thane. Have as many thanes as you want. I talk too much. Go.
Yeah, you made a good point, I thought, earlier about I get John kind of talked about it as like maybe as loyalty, but it's two people becoming one physically in the flesh,
right, literally and metaphorically in this case,
where Judeo-Christian understanding, the two become one. You're half of a person until you're actually with who you're supposed to be. Then you become of one heart, one flesh. Obviously not literally, but metaphorically. And this is taking that. It does the flesh thing first, right? And then it does the spiritual, union later. It's kind of reversed, but they're both real. They're both actually accomplished, literally and spiritually. So, that is there is something comfortable and heartwarming about it because we already have something of an understanding of that idea. This is just taking it one step further, basically. So
yes,
it's whether you're a Christian or not, right? That is still, that idea holds a lot of cultural capital, basically, and seeing it play out in an actual show. I think that's part of the reason why it hits kind of hard, I guess is how I would put it. I don't know.
And it's something that is much larger I guess it's kind of all over, but it's something that is more large in the Japanese world. I think especially back then, at least compared to now, because Midori Days is like 20 years old or something. So there would be more people alive who remembered this. No, I'm sure it came out the same year as Schindler's List, and I'm being fucking stupid again. But Japan had very weird marriage norms until relatively recently, where it was basically Americans who taught them to have the concept of a romantic marriage. America,
they were much more like duty and honor focused with it.
Until America was running Japan, most marriages were mostly arranged, or at least family arrangement was the primary force creating marriages. So it was completely a mentality of, you're with this person, and then you figure it out. You don't fall in love with the person, then get with them. It's like you get with them, then you fall in love with them. Or you don't. Or you just suffer in silence, whatever. Just, do whatever.
And you will suffer in silence because they don't want to hear about it.
Right.
Yeah, no one cares. It's like, hey, you got a wife. You didn't even have to talk to her. And you got one. Just shut up. Just have your wife.
That was my only interjection, Green. You can continue with your thought.
It's like the fantasy knockout thing. It's just romance driven by a pathological hatred of meeting new people.
Damn.
I guess that's one way to look at it.
Yeah. Which, it's hard. I mean, talking to people's hard. Have you ever tried it?
Yeah, it gets easier.
Not often.
Not often. It gets easier. It's like that's never a good sign. But Japan was a traditional society where they always assumed the circumstances come first and then you adapt to the circumstances. Right. And that's something that, we haven't had in the West for a very long time. That still kind of exists. But I think it is there when you're in a Western model of dating where everything is so frivolous and you can be picked up or dropped off at any moment. There's no real commitment. Like there is something kind of enticing about a relationship where it's like, it starts at the beginning and then it goes.
Yeah, not, hey, we hit a rocky moment here. I guess it's over. It's, okay, we have a rocky moment. How do we get through it?
Or just all the uncertainty that comes with even starting a relationship, let alone like seeing it through successfully. So, yeah, it's like you got the foundation laid. The foundation is there. How good or how shitty of a house you want to build on the foundation is up to you both. But it's not, the foundation is not going to get washed away because it's socially unacceptable for it to be washed away.
Right. Whereas in the West, it's like, what foundation? There is no foundation.
Yeah, there's no foundation because that would be tying people down. And that's wrong.
Well, in the West, it's fucking bizarre because...
Sorry.
Yeah. In the West, everything is backwards to what works, where the West has something where everyone can... Not everyone. Where people can accept the idea of the plan of how things work, but then in practice, it just never works. It just kind of falls apart. Where there's some really anxiety provoking. And this isn't even just, there's a big capitalist element to this. I just read a thing a little while ago saying that in Japan, the marketing of Western companies played a huge part in its development of new marriage norms, where there was a generation of Japanese people where there was a generation of young people in Japan where their parents were mostly brought together through arranged marriages, or at least mostly traditional marriages. And they were just kind of on their own because the Americans didn't give a shit.
Right.
The last fucking thing America was going to do was push Japan back towards its pagan pre-Western history. And so Western marketers played a big part, where the diamond cartels, they basically kind of rewrote Japanese dating norms by scratch. Even at a time in the mid 20th century when most people in the West did not have diamond engagement rings. They had what my grandparents had. They had gold wedding bands where the man and the woman, their rings are almost identical. The man's is a little bit thicker, but they're just gold bands.
Right.
And that's what almost everyone used. And Japan actually adopted diamond wedding rings up to over 90% within like one generation. Wow. Because the Western marketers hit them so fucking hard, telling them this is what they do in the West. They have diamonds. It's how you know you have a real relationship. You have a diamond. So they actually ended up taking Western norms that were imaginary, making them real, and then the West caught up to them.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, it's kind of fucked up. Do you ever just stare at your ceiling going, you know what? You know what never accomplishes anything? Diamonds in wedding rings.
Yeah, I actually have. I don't think I was staring at my ceiling specifically when that thought struck me.
No, but I don't even like the way diamond rings look.
No, they're stupid. And the whole concept was the diamond is supposed to represent, when there was a concept, which was very brief and didn't work so well, the idea was, it's 1/3 of your yearly salary goes into that.
Oh, ring. Yeah, that's stupid too.
Yeah, it's a sign of commitment. And then meanwhile, we're in this no commitment free-for-all, and they still expect diamond rings.
Yeah, I don't think most people know what the word commitment even means anymore.
Oof.
It means being locked in a crazy house.
Yeah, well, what it really means is you're committed to me, but I don't have to be committed to you.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what it means.
I think there's some. Oh, RA, go.
Yeah, no, I think you made a good point earlier as well too, in regards to how much Western, or at least at one point in our civilization's history, Western dating norms, but all the foundation of the marriage itself and all the accoutrements that come with it, like, and basically all the Sailor Moon artwork, official artwork for the show, which to some extent is a romance. Okay, I'm just using like one example. There's a million other examples, but I think we'd all agree Sailor Moon is one of the most popular anime manga exports, from Japan. It's very clearly set in Japan. They're with Japanese characters.
I'll allow it.
But like all of Sailor Moon's, Usagi's dreams of the relationship, at least when it pertains to marriage, it's always her in like in a white Western style wedding dress. It's in an actual church. Right, the cake, like all the, all the cultural norms, basically of, beyond it. It's obviously a romantic relationship as well too. So it ties in with the marriage being something like that. But there's no traditional Japanese representations at all. Like if you want to consider traditional as in like pre-World War II. In any of the imagery that's used throughout the series when it's referencing, again, marriage, weddings, things like that, which is very interesting because this is again, one of Japan's most popular cultural exports, and it's just Western, just total Western style, both the nature of the relationship in terms of it being like very romantic, although it ties into fate as well too, but also again everything that all the imagery shown. Anyway, that was it.
And Sailor Moon would have been written by a woman at a time where her grandmother probably had an arranged marriage.
Exactly. No, that's a great point.
As did probably most of the older women in her life.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not like it was forgotten 3 generations ago type of thing. There's a direct
But it was already
connection.
that culturally ingrained in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not even...
It would have been, I guess, the 90s was when that was...
It was written in the anime came out late 92, early 93, I think. The manga, I'm not sure exactly when it was written.
I just pulled up. Manga started in December of 91.
Okay, got it. So anime pretty soon.
Why did every media property start in the early 90s?
Well, isn't that...
I don't know.
No, I think... isn't that before Japan's economy
Wait, it's
crashed?
because of World War II when you think about it.
Well, yeah, but also Japan's economy crashed in the
80s, right?
early to mid 90s is really when it tanked. If I'm not mistaken.
The 80s was the delusional, irrational exuberance period where there was an insane mega boom that really wasn't seen again until the internet bubble.
Gotcha.
And it's like one of the top 2 or 3 booms in like the last 200 years.
Yeah, I just checked Wikipedia. The lost decades started in 1991. So Japan's economy crashed in 91.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was thinking that was the 80s, but...
Which is when they wrote Kaiji. Well, it was like the very late 80s, whatever. Which is when they wrote Kaiji, which is about being a young man in an economically depressed period, kind of like I am now, except I'm not so young anymore.
Oh, we're creating tons of jobs. Like, I don't know what you're complaining about.
Are you joking or
yes,
being serious?
I'm joking.
Right oh, okay.
You know the political posts. You know the political posts I make on my profile. Of course, I'm joking.
Oh yeah.
I mean, granted, it's like 2% of my total output, right? But yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Kaiji. You're gonna watch Kaiji. God damn it! I got you to buy it. You have to watch it.
So I gotta finish Cobra first, and I'm gonna finish Cutie Honey, and then I will go right into Kaiji. I promise.
Okay, as long as you promise. And then you can watch my amazing video from years ago.
Yes.
About how great Kaiji is.
I've been meaning to watch it, but I didn't want to, spoil it or anything like that. So.
Yeah, you don't want to. It's the greatest video. It's the greatest opinion anyone has ever had about Kaiji. I don't look back on my videos that fondly, but like, God damn it, no one likes Kaiji better than I did.
I think most people that create content feel that way about their older content most of the time.
Yeah.
They hate it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, or at least...
I mean, do you know anybody that's artistically talented?
What?
that draws or makes music?
I'm trying to think of a few people. Define talent.
You would consider that they're good at this thing that you would also call artistic.
Yeah, they're good.
Now, if you ask them to describe how they felt about something they created like a year ago, they'd probably say that they hated it, right?
Or they would at least view it as disappointing compared to what they do now.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's a natural artistic progression, is being eternally dissatisfied with what you produced before.
I don't know. It's not always dissatisfied. You just realize now that you're better, quote unquote, at what you do, you can see the flaws in it more.
Yeah, it's a little more embarrassing.
Man, my whole life is a work of art.
Damn. Hey. Everyone's life is a little bit of that, at least.
Yeah, but talking about Kaiji, I didn't get into this as much. I always wanted to make another Kaiji video talking more about this, but I think the gender aspect of Kaiji is one of the most important things about it, because Kaiji, and John, have you seen Kaiji?
I have not, so I unfortunately don't have anything to contribute here.
Okay, but in Kaiji, one of the driving forces in Kaiji is male disposability. It's about, like, Kaiji is a show, there are no female characters.
Yep.
Except for a cameo at the very end from a character who shows up in the manga. But Kaiji has no female characters. It's about young and or middle-aged burnout men who are worthless, have nothing going for them. They end up in spaces where literally every single person with any agency is male, and it's a brutal dog-eat-dog mentality. And the arc of Kaiji is, how do you try to create something stable and semi-moral when you're in an environment of pure competition? And we were talking about the romance thing and commitment earlier. There's something really psychologically taxing about constantly knowing that you're disposable.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I know when you didn't realize, or at least in my case, when I didn't realize that it was always so much easier to just nonchalantly go about life and not care. But then you do, and you're like, oh, nobody really cares. It's liberating in a way, but it's also in a way, but it's not.
Well, the
not
ultimate
all good.
liberation is death.
Yes. That's true.
I mean,
but at the same time, it's also
sense.
nobody will ever actually care about me in ways that I find significant, except basically my immediate family and some of my very close friends.
Yeah, it's liberating in an immediate sense, but the background noise, the anxiety, makes it ultimately
almost unbearable. Yeah.
Well, I mean, unless you're a normie, I guess it's just not unbearable.
Well, if you're a normie, you don't know.
That's true.
If you're a normie, you don't understand the concept of male disposability at all.
You're right. It doesn't register.
If you're a normie, you don't know about things until 50 years after they happen.
If at all.
Yeah. If you're a normie, you wouldn't have been able to know what Briefolt's law was earlier. So, when we were talking about that.
But yeah, and just to make kind of a final point. Well, not a final point, but to kind of tie together, I think my point and your point, Green, about Midori days. My point being, from a Western audience perspective, that concept of two becoming one already has some cultural capital, whether you're religious or not. But you made a great point that from the Western audience perspective that doesn't know Christianity as well, it actually has a lot of cultural capital too, because it's an exaggeration of how marriages used to be historically. Or
at least the idealized version of what we would portray marriage as.
Where you're stuck together first through no decision of your own, and then you have to make it work afterward. So you could make an argument that it is the greatest romance of all time because it works from both a Western perspective and an Eastern perspective in unique ways. Boom! Green, Midori Days is a fucking good You're point. Right. You helped me arrive at the conclusion. It is the greatest fucking romance of all time. Wow.
And I'll probably come close to agreeing with that when I finish it. So,
which you should. It's a great.
I definitely will. I'm loving what I saw so far. So, we'll definitely.
I will
finish
say
it.
I do think the manga is better than the anime. But that might be nostalgia to some extent. I watched it first. I think the manga also. I think a lot of the humor just also works well when it's snappier and quicker. I
agree. In a lot of cases, I think anime adaptations just wind up taking a little bit too long to get from individual point to the next one. So you end up with a little bit of downtime that you just don't have in a manga the way it goes on from a panel to the next. Because it takes you 2 seconds to skim a whole page, whereas that scene might take a minute to play out in an anime.
I think that's not too controversial. It's like it's like the average manga is better than the average anime, but the best anime is better than the best manga would be maybe a way to put it.
I think that's probably a fair way to phrase it. Because I feel like if you adapt it properly, there are some things that just work better as an anime, whereas there are some things that just work better in the manga format.
You know what?
It's kind of give and take too. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It is a give and take. You just triggered an idea. I have not told you about this. Have either of you heard about the manga 100 Girlfriends Who Really Love You?
No. Please go on.
No, it sounds extremely close to a bunch of other titles, but that one specifically, no.
No, it's a manga that's been going for a few years. It's aimed towards, I would say, younger teenagers, where it's a romance, it's a rom-com, it's a harem, but it's a very cheeky, silly one. It doesn't have a ton of fan service. It's the perfect apotheosis of both the bullshit and the trad Lindy wings of fucking how romance works these days, where the basic concept is just a guy meets a young teenage guy meets a god. He says, hey, you're going to have 100 girlfriends. When you meet one of them, you're going to instinctively know who it is. Everyone has to go along with this or they die. Go find your 100 girlfriends, go.
Okay.
And the whole manga is him collecting a harem of girlfriends because he'll just periodically see someone, his spidey sense goes off, and then he acquires a girlfriend for his collection like Pokemon.
Gotta catch them all.
Yes.
It's literally girlfriend, gotta catch them all.
Yeah. And actually it's almost similar to the original number of we're gonna hit fucking 100 girlfriends Johto, and there's gonna be like 350, and one will be a fucking ice cream cone.
And another one will be a trash can because they'll be the worst girl.
You joke, but them having a trash girlfriend is extremely likely at this point. The thing is, each girlfriend has a gimmick and is like a parody of another type of girlfriend that shows up in shows.
Okay.
But they're running out of gimmicks. They're at like 16 now. There's a girlfriend who's a fucking cowboy. There's a girlfriend that carries a baseball bat everywhere and wears a baseball uniform.
You posted some manga panels from this before. You definitely have. It's been a long time, but it's starting to come back.
They have the tsundere girlfriend. That was like girlfriend number 2. They have the MILF girlfriend. Like, they just keep acquiring different types of girlfriends, and like they have to keep coming up with new gimmicks. But the thing that's crazy about this, the thing that's crazy about 100 Girlfriends, and I want to talk about this another time too. 100 Girlfriends it has the trashiest premise imaginable, but it has such a brisk, lighthearted, good-natured tone that it comes across as like, it's creepy, but in a way that's totally self-aware, where the characters are kind of aware of like, oh, this is really fucked that we're doing this right now. But one aspect of it that makes it work is it's not a guy going, oh, I'm going to hunt down 100 women and manipulate them into being my sex cult. It's him and 100 women being drafted into a sex cult by external forces, and they're like, okay, let's try to make this work. And I think that conversation made me kind of realize why the premise works. I guess I'm just coming to the conclusion, romance is being trapped with other people.
That's the best part, though.
Yeah. It is.
Is
the question is just whether you're able to enter that trap willingly, or if you don't, if you get thrown into it first and then have to learn how to deal with it.
Yeah, okay, that was kind of a detour. Hey, you know what I was thinking about, though? Fucking Konosuba.
I think about Konosuba very often, Green.
I think about it literally every day because the books are on my bookshelf and I walk by it.
I do love Konosuba. One thing that's great about Konosuba is, I don't think it's that controversial for me to say this, the point of Konosuba is the girls. Like, is anyone going to argue with me on that?
No, that's not controversial at all. Who cares? Who literally gives a shit about defeating the Demon Lord?
Yeah, well, even the characters don't give a shit about defeating the Demon Lord. Even Aqua kind of forgot about it.
Who cares? I just want to see nature's beauty over and over and over again.
I also want to see Megumi's face.
Well, yes. I mean, there's many things I want to see, but Aqua doing her fucking party tricks is just, well, it's just absolutely perfect. They could just be the whole show.
But part of the brilliance of Konosuba and why it works as a romance, I think, is there's that mentality of like, oh, fuck, we're stuck together. But one great thing about Konosuba is Konosuba has the harem aspect, but it's presented with the mentality of, okay, he's going to have to choose one of these girls. It's his life is unfolded in a way where there are 3, maybe 5 if you stretch it, girls in his life that he could have a chance with. You know, he has to figure it out, and he's going to have to eventually pick one. Or they're going to pick him or one or the other. Part of what makes Konosuba feel fun and brisk and good-natured is probably that element of, like, choices are limited. It's not, oh, Kazuma wakes up in a fantasy world. There's 1,000 fucking sexy ladies. What's he going to do? It's, no, he has 3 cute girls that he knows. What's going to happen?
I don't, like, I partially agree with you, but I think part of the problem is it doesn't feel like much of a harem with, like, serious stakes, because they shoot down pretty early on the chance at it, which is actually one of my things that I don't like about the show. There's very few things that I don't like about the show, but they kind of shoot down pretty early the prospect of an Aqua Kazuma romance. And I'm not saying he necessarily needs to end up with Aqua for it to be a great, romance or have a good conclusion, but I don't know. It's just they're the very first ones to enter the world together. They have a lot of camaraderie together built up early on. I'm fine with them trying to, like, avoid going down that road, but I just think it would be more interesting if, it was kind of maybe like Aqua occasionally, like, having a moment where, like, it just felt like the prospect was going to shut down early, and, like, doesn't break the show or anything like that, but I just, especially, after that, I just didn't really view it as like with Toradora, where, there's 3 people who have a serious shot here. And it's like here, it's like there's like maybe 2.
And a few in the wings that could work out. I never saw Aqua as that serious a romantic person.
Right, and I wish it had.
But it's mostly Megumin or Darkness.
Yeah.
And right. Aqua's presented more as like the friend character.
Yeah, that
and we
sucks.
Just shit on each other, but
or even a sister in a weird way.
Yeah, sort of like
someone who is stuck with them and on their side, but not that happy about it.
Or it's just kind of the type of relationship they have is like this begrudging friendship and not without any hint of romance in it.
Right, and like I would be fine with that dynamic like 98% of the time, but I just think it would be richer and more interesting if it was like, well, we thought we didn't have feelings for each other, but in this flashing moment for a moment, it's like, oh, there might actually be something there before they, try and ignore it or put it aside or something like that. It would raise the stakes much more, and it's just a fun element of the show that I think is missing. Like, I still respect the show. Well, maybe I don't respect Konosuba at all. That's a different conversation.
I mean, does one have to technically respect it?
No.
Well, do you fear Konosuba?
Sorry, what? What, Cream?
Do you fear Konosuba?
I will put the fear of Konosuba in you.
Actually, I fear the implications of a fantasy knockout far more than I fear the implications of Konosuba.
I will put the fear of God's blessing in this wonderful world on you.
Yeah, fantasy knockout fills me with some fear. That's kind of part of the reason I don't want to finish the show, even though I actually genuinely like the show.
It's like a time bomb. I'm going to be gay eventually.
I'm going to be gay or die.
I'm just not interested in going down this road. I'm not interested in feelings. I'm not interested in exploring this part of my psyche. With Konosuba, I'm not saying that there are parts of it that you should be comfortable exploring, but it just fits it much more naturally with mine. So I'm gonna follow this trash to the fucking end.
Yeah,
I will.
I mean, his name is Trash, isn't it?
What?
Or, no, they call him Trash.
Yeah, Trash. Yeah, there's a pun in there about how he's like his name sounds kind of like trash, but I don't remember what it works like in Japanese.
I think Trash is like Kuzu or Kazu.
I don't know a single word of Japanese.
I know like shit is kuso or something like that, right? So you'd be like shitty.
Like there was a fucking in Girlish Number there was someone whose name was Mr. Trash, or his nickname was. But yes, I'm thinking about, I think I've cracked the code on all romances. It's like romance is good when it's like structured and confined, and there's like a sense of, oh, you have limited choices, but you do have choices. Like that's what makes romance good. Yeah, and the tyranny of choice gets to be a problem when your options are too many. And it's like, oh, I could do this, this, and this. Well, you're not limited by circumstance, so you just sit there with your thumb up your ass and you can't ever decide.
I'm certainly not suffering right now from the tyranny of choice.
Yes,
I can tell you
I think we all are in that boat.
Yeah, isn't it funny how you just wake up one day and you're like, oh wait, that was my last chance. Oh well.
Yeah, that literally happened to me recently. Literally my last chance happened recently. I told you about it.
Oh no.
Oh shit, I was trying not to make it personal.
No, it's really funny, actually. It's sad, obviously, but it is also really funny. So,
hey, you know what a comedy is? A comedy is when you have no choice.
Yeah, a comedy is a tragedy with a laugh track. I don't know. I don't know anything about comedy. So, that sounded deep without actually...
I mean, there's humor in suffering. All humor is suffering.
Hey! Of course, you're obviously...
And desire is suffering. Like, why do we have to have desire?
That's a great question.
Why do we have to have desire?
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's what makes us human.
Exactly.
Does it?
Does it though?
Okay, take away desire, and you don't have anything.
Yeah, you're not like Gurren Lagann's all about desire. Well, both kinds, like ambition in general, and
or you might become a god.
More carnal version of desire. But anyway, like what makes that great is just the overriding ambition for self-betterment. And it's all consuming, and it's like you could literally end the universe by following this to its logical conclusion. It's like, you know what? Still got to try. sorry. And then it's like, fuck you, anti-spiral piece of shit. Yeah.
Well, it was funny earlier when you guys were talking about disposability, and you were saying, oh, no one cares about you except, your friends and family and stuff. And I found myself thinking, maybe God has me, kind of, I hope.
Yeah, that too, if you're religious.
Yeah, God cares.
I was just speaking more generally.
I think that's where it kind of comes down to in the end. It's like, that's always a problem with romance, too. It's like, well, yeah, but the other person's going to stop liking you at some point or die. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the liking you through to its physical conclusion of lifespan that would still make it like not in vain, right? I mean, it's not in vain if it ended well or as well as it possibly could.
Right, because everything ends. It's just a matter of, do you get to end it on good terms or
One
not?
Piece does not end.
Okay,
no.
That's fair, and I will never watch that show. I will never start.
Death of the fucking universe. He's still going to be trucking along.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, but is time real? That's the other element of this.
I mean, according to One Piece, no, because it's still going on.
Time is real. I mean, I saw your post about it on Twitter where it's like, here's the normie take on time. Here's
Oh yeah, I saw that too.
I'm like, I don't really understand this. This is pretty funny.
Was that when I was arguing with Logo?
No. You just retweeted. You retweeted something a few days ago.
I thought you got into a little debate about it.
Like
or
time
something.
is real.
Right?
It's like normie take is time is real, space is real. Like can't take is like time is. I don't know. It was.
Oh, that was funny. Yeah, Kant said money is real, but time is not.
Yeah.
Kant believed that time was. He thought that time was an illusion where your consciousness can only hold so much information simultaneously. I don't know how you say that word without having time, but at any moment you can only have so much information at once, and that creates the illusion of time because you're just hitting the head of how much you can perceive in one gob.
Yeah, but he didn't have a science degree, so
no. And people are passing around a comic saying he used to get erections under his bed.
Oh yeah,
because he was afraid of masturbating. So he would yell at the butler to tuck him in. Yeah, the circus is coming.
Yeah, that's
Wait, what?
I have no idea how true or not true that is, but it's so weird that I actually kind of have to believe it is true. Because it's like, how do you think that weird? Up? It's like, how do you think that up?
Like, it's so specific.
It's so specific and so strange that with like 75 to 80% certainty. I'm like, yeah, that actually, like, would I bet my life on it? No, but that probably fucking happened.
It's like sometimes you hear about like accusations made against someone, and at first you're like, maybe I could see them doing it. Then they say something so weirdly specific, you're like, oh, that definitely happened.
Yeah.
like how could you possibly imagine this?
Like if you included this in a college essay, like I wouldn't even need a citation. It's like, yep.
Source, it definitely happened.
It's too strange. Hey,
yeah.
The truth
Could
is stranger
you make
than
this
fiction.
up?
The truth is stranger than fiction. So it's like, yeah, I mean, how deranged would you have to be to figure this one out, even as a joke?
Yeah, but on the off chance the audience doesn't know, there have been comics going around saying that Immanuel Kant, the philosopher, had really bizarre personal habits and would force his servants to catch up with him. The most popular one is when he had an erection, he would yell at his butler to tuck him in, and he would yell, the circus is coming, presumably because he was pitching a tent, and that was a really funny pun for, the greatest philosopher of all time. It's you have a way with words if you're going to do that. That's what I need. See, that's why I need a wife. I can yell, the circus is coming, and she can come tuck me in whenever I have an erection.
Good old getting tucked in.
Maybe you sleep in separate futons, or if she's tucking you in. Right?
Right.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with sleeping in separate beds sometimes.
There's definitely something wrong with it. I'm joking. I'm joking here somewhat. Like I'm obviously realizing I'm being a dick for no reason, but it's also like
a social conservative.
Right. But the reason why I actually say that with like a hint of seriousness is like I've got so much of my life sleeping alone that it's like if I actually did end up getting married and the wife actually proposed like, hey, maybe we would sleep a little better if we slept separately, and I'd be like, fuck no. Like, I'm not dealing with this shit again. Like, I don't care.
You just yell, the circus is coming, the circus is coming. That was a horrible joke.
But I mean, it's just like, but you're not going to tuck me in and like go to a separate bed. It's like, fuck that. It's like, I earned this, and I actually don't care if I get worse sleep or it's less comfortable or whatever. It's like, you're just like, we're just going to have to fucking deal with this, because I'm not going back to the old me. Okay, I'm not the Bugs Bunny. I'm not the Bugs Bunny meme where I got to go back to being the old me, right? It's like, I'm done with that.
Do you ever think that? Fuck. Do you ever think that normies know that they're wrong about everything? They just don't care because they get to have good lives.
I think they're too ignorant as to the fact that their lives aren't good, and that's why they enjoy them.
No, I think there might be a handful of like enlightened ones, but I think it's either what John says, or I do think there's a lot of cases where they feel like something's wrong. Like, they are in tune that something is wrong, but they can't put their finger on it. I think that is a lot of people.
Right.
I think that's
it's also like talking to somebody that enjoys a obviously shitty piece of media. You're just like,
do you mean anime shitty where you're going to hell, or TV shitty where it's bad?
I mean, anime does suck. I mean, can we just like clear the air here? It all sucks.
Sure. We'll just get that on the table now.
It's all weird. It's well made.
But that's what's great about it.
It's great. No, I'm just saying it sucks. And actually, what I can actually say with 100% seriousness, at least, like, I obviously was joking there about anime sucking. But like, watching anime sucks. Like, I'm 100% serious when I say that. It is my least favorite part of interacting with anime. I like thinking about anime. I like talking about it. I like posting pictures of the fan art and of the official art and things like that. But the watching of it, I fucking hate. It's not something I look forward to doing.
I do it as a social thing a lot.
It's a chore.
But yeah, it's definitely a chore.
You fucking normie.
What?
You know people?
Sort of.
It's actually beautiful. I have a new apartment now. You know how, like, the really powerful truths about a person are not the things they say, it's their assumptions. It's the unspoken things that are just taken for granted that they never even question or bring up. You know what I mean by that?
I don't think I've heard that piece of wisdom before, but I think I pick up what you're putting down.
Well, it's just something I believe but don't say. So yeah, it is wisdom, and probably haven't heard of it. But
yeah, you're right. It's truly unique.
Yeah, but the really deep things about a person you can really get to if you understand their basic assumptions about the world. My apartment, when I look around it now, the amazing thing about it is set up and organized with the premise that no one but me will ever be in here.
Mm-hmm. So
like when you come in,
I understand the concept. Can you just describe like I have a basic idea of how it's set up, but like your thinking behind how it's set up would be interesting to know.
When you come in, this little narrow hallway, there's a giant crazy greenhouse with my various tropical plants that I'm, making against the wall. The center area is taken up by these multiple desks that are arranged like the, bridge of a submarine or something, where there's room for one chair. There's only one chair in the entire building. Then if you go around, there's a little shitty couch I have that there's really only room for one person to sit there because of how the table is next to it. And then there's, my bed in the far corner. It's like if another person other than me entered this room, I really wouldn't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
And that's such a weird thing where someone who didn't know me could enter here, look around, and they would know something really interesting about me just from the fact that I assume no one but me will be here. I don't even have a chair for emergencies. Like if anyone shows up, they just have to stand.
Yeah, that is. I think I've heard something a little bit like what you're saying, where it's definitely not the same, but you can learn so much about a person by just looking through their trash, like looking through literally their garbage. It's as obviously
just pictures of lum.
Why would I throw out pictures?
I was going to say, wait a minute. Hold on. Is this a subtle dig at his waifu of choice?
That was like your waifu is trash.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Not funny. It's not good.
It's very
It's a personal attack. That's what it is, Green. Yeah, I mean, my taste.
You have
sucks.
a trashy sense of humor.
Yes, but yeah, it's just like you learn so much about people by how they have their life, how they have their physical environment just simply structured, or the things that they use. I mean, obviously, you learn more about a person by seeing their living space, right? But yeah, It's like who has like I don't have people come here often, but I do at least have like 2 or 3 chairs, right? I don't assume that someone will never come here. Like a family member will come here.
Right.
Like
I mean, I'm usually alone in my room too, but I do have an extra couple of chairs in here.
So that would be a very interesting thing to notice, that it is kind of your own kingdom. It is literally your own world. You're a king with your throne, but no attendants.
But no maidens.
No, definitely no maidens. I think we all understand that about each other here. we are all maidenless. That's why we're talking about anime.
Yes.
I think the whole core concept about this was, like, oh, romance. What is the appeal of romance? It's you being sad.
It's
and
that
alone.
thing that I don't have.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, so that's why Fantasy Knockout, the guy gets breasts. It's all making sense now. You want what you don't have.
In a sense, but then he was like, I took a shower and I couldn't even enjoy it.
Oh, I don't think I've gotten that far into it yet.
I thought it was in one of the earlier ones. It's like I reminded myself of my little sister.
He does walk in on her drying herself off, and he's like, "Hey, you need to be like way more careful about this." But that I do remember. But there hasn't been like any like. I don't think that joke or situation is specifically come out.
Okay, I thought it was in one of the first episodes. It was her saying like I tried to look at myself in the shower and it wasn't like the way I thought it would be.
No, I don't remember that joke. I mean, you're probably right, but I just don't specifically remember that. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, if we want to get back to, because before I got into anime at all, let alone like romance anime. I do specifically remember, and I have posted about this on Twitter before, maybe only once, so about how like 10 years ago I was floored to, and I mean this like seriously, like I'm not kidding about it. I was floored to find out that romance novels, like their insane amount of market share that they have overall, and that they're basically the most popular genre. Like I'm misremembering some facts here. So, but it was just I can at least agree it was way higher than I ever anticipated. I'm like, what the fuck? This is like the most embarrassing, like sugary dog shit that has like ever been. Like it's trash. Like it is trash. And then I'm like, then I actually found out that basically all my favorite shows are romance animes. I'm like, oh,
whoops,
fuck. It's me. I'm the problem.
The whole time.
Well, and you also have to consider that romance, like that's a very wide berth of people. If you shove it into romance as a very wide category,
and women read more.
Women do.
Well, no, I mean, but if you break down that there's maybe like five genres, key genres. There's thriller. There's mystery. There's, self. I don't know if they were considering just purely fictional. I'm obviously referring to fiction, romance.
Yeah, that's fine.
All these other like fantasy is obviously a key one. Like it was just an insane amount of market share. I wish I could find the original thing that I was referencing, but it was a long time ago.
I mean, it is insane, and I mean the real thing is how many there are. Because you would think, okay, we write romance novels for 20 years,
right?
All those people die, and there are enough books for everyone to read them forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or that the cream of the crop would just rise to the surface. Is like, no, it's like this insatiable appetite, which is kind of tying into the movie version of like, what the fuck was that? 50 Shades of whatever the fuck.
50 Shades of Grey.
50 Grades of Shay is what I like to say. What I say.
50. It's about a really dumb guy going to school.
Shay, what?
He repeats school 20 times.
But yeah, I mean that was kind of the movie. That was kind of the movie, like edgy version of that insatiable appetite for, granted, like more over the top, right? But of filling that same need, I think it just got more attention overall. It's like I don't know anyone who knows like a specific like romance novel that's on the level of Harry Potter, like Visibility or Dan Brown's Code, whatever. I don't even know what the Dan Brown Da Vinci Code, etc.
Right.
Like so that rising to the surface, but it would just serve as like a very much illustrative of that need being fulfilled and just more normies just getting pulled into it. But who reads those romance novels but normies? They have to read them. There can't be that many fucking.
And they're the ones with relationships.
Right, they're the ones with the relationships that
they're not satisfied with, so they're getting
totally unsatisfied.
Getting that feeling somewhere else. That's the thing. It doesn't bother me about being single all that much because I know a lot of the people in relationships are actually in really shitty ones.
Yeah. Isn't it weird how your last relationship sucked ass, but then you're like, oh, I should get another?
Well, I don't have a last relationship, so.
Oh, fuck.
My last relationship was good. My last relationship was good. It just ended traumatically. So it's like, I don't really want another relationship to end traumatically. So wasn't so much that it was bad. It was actually great in it. But it's like, damn.
I have a weird fucking life cycle I ended up living where when I was younger, in my late teens and early 20s, I did talk to women. I did have a few relationships and shit. Then I slowly became an insane anime incel, like with time as I approached 30.
Yeah.
So like I fucking reverted.
You devolved.
I was a kind of normal guy.
You devolved.
Yeah, I evolved.
No, devolved. No, you did not evolve. You devolved.
No, I'm good. I'm moving towards the next stage of evolution.
The primordial soup.
Don't have sex. Yeah. Soup could be nice.
Being an amoeba would be would be kind of cool.
Yeah, just becoming soup, that's the ultimate romance, like in the end of Evangelion.
That's true. Well, it's not soup, Green, it's Tang. Everyone knows that. Or Fresca. Pick your poison, right? I'm fine with either. But yeah, it's like with me specifically, it was like good relationship, traumatic end, and then like a couple like really bad, just like difficult emotional years, and then getting into anime. So I'm not going to say so much like, yeah, I guess I devolved. Sure, why not? I definitely devolved too, but it wasn't like. It obviously takes time to get into it, but it was very much what I considered a separate stage of my life, right?
Right.
So it wasn't so much like it was overlapping. Like Otaku no Video is actually about the devolving while you're being a normie too, which is one aspect that's great about it. It's like he finally meets up with some old friends. I don't think I'm giving much of spoilers here about Otaku no Video, but he meets up by accident, runs into some old friends he had in high school, and they're all hardcore otaku. They're going to they're cosplaying and they're on their way to a convention. And he kind of gets through just their sheer enthusiasm and, gets kind of roped into their social circle again. And he's like a university student. He's like on the tennis team, or like an avid tennis player, has a girlfriend. And it's him devolving and becoming, while also trying to hang on to being a normie, devolving into this being an otaku and losing his girlfriend, and then like realizing it's like, why do people respond positively to people liking tennis, but not me who likes Gundam or something like that, and just fuck them, fuck every.
Who likes the Prince of Tennis? God damn it! I was in the other room. Fuck.
So like fuck fuck this society. Like I'm gonna become a full blown otaku, and I'm never gonna turn back. And then he turns his otakuism into a global empire, which is basically what Gainax was like, a fantastical vision of like what Gainax wanted to do, is turn everyone into an otaku, and then like where you would literally go to Otaku Land amusement park, which is like kind of a terrifying vision of the future, but it's also kind of fucking awesome too.
Right.
Where it's meant to like literally convert, like you're literally here to turn the normies into full blown otakus. Anyway, so that's Otaku no Video. It's good. About that.
I have a very long standing rule that the day I'm driving down the highway and I see a billboard of a lolly with McDouble is the day I put a fucking gun in my mouth.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead. That's really
no, I was trying to think of a witty comeback, but I couldn't. Just also, please don't actually put a bullet in your mouth.
Yeah. No, I'm fine. But I got distracted.
Yeah, well, like where
you reminded me of a
mainstream.
plan I had. Oh yeah, you reminded me of a plan I had to like fire a gun during a podcast one time. Not today.
Thank you. I don't like loud noises.
Oh, neither do I. I mean, well, it's not as loud as the gun would be in. You were in the army.
Yeah, I also don't like loud noises. They're not like mutually
okay.
exclusive.
This is true.
Okay. Oh yeah, but
I don't like loud.
Yeah,
I don't like loud music. I don't like gunshots. I don't like people talking too loudly. I don't like. Just want people to be a little more.
What the hell was I saying? Oh yeah! God damn it!
It was otakuism. It was about blowing your brains out if you saw a lolly advertising McDonald's.
Oh right. Cool. But I do kind of believe that about normies. I kind of believe normies know that they're boring, but they do it on purpose to make it easier to get girlfriends.
I'm sure there's some of that. Because you'll know some people that will have more extreme positions on something, and then you meet them a year later, and they just are totally echoing the positions of whatever the popular current thing is.
Yes.
You're like, what happened to you from a year ago? And you're like, oh, you wanted a girlfriend. I get it.
That's why you like Marvel movies now.
Oh man.
Which is kind of
fucking.
No, go ahead, Green.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that saying. It's like what no pussy will do to a motherfucker. A small amount of pussy is so much worse than no pussy.
Yeah, have I ever shared that tweet with you guys from Jim?
Who's Jim?
He's a notorious
Gaffigan
anime shit. Dude, no, he's just a dude from Australia.
Oh, Jim.
Oh, Jim Jeffries.
Oh, I think I know who Jim is. Yeah, I know Wyatt better, but I saw Jim recently. So didn't he make a post recently about where he said, "Oh, I got fired from my middle school job."
Yeah, he was joking, but it's
wait a minute. I'm looking at this guy's profile.
I'm like, so he was joking about being a middle school teacher.
Yeah, I looked at the rest of his profile. I'm like, this guy should not be in a adolescence or pre-adolescent school setting.
No, he is definitely shitposting.
And then I'm like, oh, he's shitposting. Got it.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Let me see if I can just post that in here.
I said Jim Jeffries and no one laughed, and it was so funny.
I'm sorry. I think I cut out, or I was talking over you, and I apologize for that.
You're far more culturally attuned than I am, Green. So sometimes when I just don't laugh at a joke, it doesn't mean that I think it's not funny. It's just I literally just don't know the reference.
Know what this is? I'm an old fucking man where I loved stand-up in my early 20s, and so I know all those stand-ups from that era. And now I'm just old, and Zoomers don't like comedy. It's bad.
Yeah, that's a tough place to be.
Oh, you dropped a chat?
Yeah, did it come through?
I can't download.
That was the tweet I was talking about.
I can't.
It's a PNG. I'm opening this. People always. Oh, fuck that account. Yeah. Or
yeah.
I love how you just knew once you actually took a look at it. Oh, that.
Yeah,
okay.
People always be like, "What zero pussy does to a motherfucker," but I've seen what pussy does, and it's much, much worse.
Factually correct.
Yeah, just no winning. Just no.
Seen people make extremely stupid decisions.
Yeah, it turns you into a feral dog. Like none of it you can be miserable but tamed, and then too much of it you can be miserable but tamed, or maybe just tamed. But too little of it, as in some of it, but not all of it that you would ideally like. Yeah, that's a bad.
Why does every aspect of romance have to be a fucking Zen cone?
What's a Zen cone?
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that either. I'm sorry. I'll Google it.
Oh fuck! They're the little Zen phrases, like the little Eastern monk phrases that just seem confusing but kind of mean something. Like the shit like Master Oogway would say or something.
I know a little bit about Zen in the sense that it is meant to seem kind of ridiculous on the surface, but there's wisdom underneath it if you aren't a dumbass.
Koans are little riddles you teach students in Zen to make them attain Zen.
Okay. But I don't understand. But I don't understand how every romance is basically that.
No, but why does everything? Let me rephrase it. Why does everything around romance have to be a fucking Zen paradox, where it's this complex, self-defeating thing? Where if you do one thing, then the opposite happens, and then if you do the opposite, then the one thing happens. And then if you want things, you don't have them. And then if you have them, you don't want them. It's like, why can't anything just be fucking simple?
Are you talking about the literal plots of the romances, or do you mean just the people?
No,
I mean
life
principles. The act of wanting anything.
Right. It's like you want a relationship, but it eludes you. And then once you have one, the grass is greener on the other side, basically, at that point.
That's just human nature. You're just going to be battling forever.
And just everything around it. Like male competition would be a good example. You're put in this position where it's like, oh, okay, everyone competes, and then the people who win have this big advantage, so everything competes. And then you go out and compete, and it's like, oh, actually not trying and not giving a shit is how you actually find things. It's like, just tell me one thing. It's like, oh, or then you actually got the relationship, but now it's not worth it because you were being an alpha Chad, and that turned you into the monster who can't have feelings. And then if you cry, people leave you. It's just... What? There can't just be a thing that works.
Yeah, I mean, basically everything to an extreme turns you... Well, not everything, but most things to an extreme turn you into a monster. Anime can definitely turn you into a monster.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, it has.
many such cases. I mean, I personally wouldn't know. I don't know a guy who's a monster, right? But, it wouldn't be me, right?
Yeah. There are monsters everywhere. There might be one in this call.
And you did a podcast on Monster.
Roar.
Transition.
Yeah. Back to Fantasy Knockout.
Back to we're going back a whole podcast screen. We're going back to Monster. And
Monster was a good show.
That said before.
I was zoning out for a second. Keep going, RA.
Okay.
No, it's it was just that it would be funny to not just revert back to the original topic that started all this, but no, revert back to a different podcast. We're going farther back here, folks. But yeah, probably liking romance anime is not a healthy, or at least it's not. I don't think it's unhealthy specifically to watch it, but it's probably not like a healthy indicator of your social and emotional health. There are things that are like, there's no such thing as objectively good art, but where a lot of people can agree whether they're into romances or not, it's fairly close to being like objectively good that everyone can agree that it's well made and things like that. But yeah, it's just, It's not like I'm going out there and watching like every single seasonal romance. A lot of them, like I just don't generally, but the good ones, like man, they hit way too fucking hard.
I watch the bad romances on purpose. I think where every other season, I always where every other season I just pick one of the really corny, cheap, high concept. Like Doga Kobo is exactly in my strike zone.
Which one is that?
They did, like the most recent one was that senpai show, where it's literally just, oh my god, my senpai is so tall and cool.
Oh yeah, that one was funny at least.
Yeah, but the art is good, or at least decent.
Yeah, but it's a completely unobtrusive show.
Yeah.
Where just nothing happens.
Yeah,
it's just senpai is tall and the girl has a crush on him. That's all that happens. Uzaki, she just has boobs. That's the whole show. She just has boobs. Nagatoro, there's a little more going on, but it's still the same vein.
Well, yeah, it's just another in the my girlfriend is actually nice to me style of anime.
Well,
I don't think
Nagatoro would not fit under that classification.
I know.
She's not a tsundere though, which is nice. She's a jerk. She's mean.
Yeah,
she's not a tsundere. She's not Taiga. Taiga's a fucking jerk. I love her. Right, but like their first meeting with the it's not Ryuji. Yes, I remembered an anime name that's actually a male and not a female, right?
No, it's Terminal.
Yeah. But yeah, the first encounter that they have, is she accidentally bumps into her in the hallway, and then she just fucking like uppercuts him. in the chin. Like, Nagatoro didn't do that. Like, she teases him, but it's coming from, like, a good place. No, she genuinely hates Ryuji at first.
Yeah, I really like the term tsundora. I think I mentioned this.
Tsundora.
Where it's one of the many, it's when the tsundere is a small Mexican schoolgirl. So yeah, Nagatoro.
Yeah, literally Nagatoro. She's Mexican. Just get over it.
But tsundora it's a tsundere where instead of, oh, she acts like she hates you, but she secretly kind of likes you, it's, no, the way this person acts, any rational human being would think they actually do hate you.
Yeah. That is kind of how... go ahead.
The go-to example would be Senjo Gahara from Monogatari, where in the first meeting, she fucking takes a stapler and staples the side of Araragi's fucking mouth. And then 2 episodes later, she's like, you know what? I love you.
Damn.
Any sane person would have read into that a little more.
Yeah, like, I would argue that Toradora kind of fits. Maybe it's not that extreme, but yeah, she grows to like him over time. Like that wall, emotional wall she puts in front of herself, starts to crumble. But it's not love at first sight, but hiding it. Right. I don't actually like you, Baka. Type of thing. No, she genuinely does. Sure, she genuinely doesn't like him. She genuinely does not like him.
Oh, as I said, it kind of goes back to the necessity thing in that series too, because they're spending time with each other for.
Yeah, they need each other. Because they want each other's partner, like friends. They're friends. Yeah,
as significant others. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a marriage. It's a marriage of convenience. I get it. We've been talking about marriage. What a segue. But yeah, it's certainly a convenient arrangement, but they got to kind of like deal with each other to get what each other wants.
Right. Well, and they stop hating each other pretty quick.
Yeah. No, it's definitely not carried over into like episode 20 or something like that. Which I mean is endearing. It's those barriers start to break down, and obviously he doesn't viscerally dislike her to the level that she viscerally dislikes him. He's just kind of more like, what the fuck, like fucking like, being an ass.
Yeah, well, and it doesn't really even take that long before she's
right.
Treating him decently,
at least decently. Yeah. The by the way, Toradora, one of the funniest. I do think the pool episode is one of the funniest. Even though it's like a dumb gag. Yeah. It's just like that whole episode is just so funny. It's just so good. When she's in the dressing room and she pulls him in, like just how that's done, and then his face hitting the mirror. Like it's all stupid like gag. A lot of it's stupid gag bullshit. You touch my breast, like type of like thing with the payoff at the very end where he has to help her. Yeah, where he has to help put her fake her padding back into her swimsuit in the pool to preserve her dignity
basically. Or whatever. Yeah.
And then her scream that basically, like, I don't know if that ends the episode, but her wail basically of bubbly despair, right, of what has just happened. It's so embarrassing. I've watched that episode so many times. It just even the even the dumb gag humor of just the way she pulls him into the dressing room and his face hits the mirror and he's just stuck there with his face smashed into the mirror while she's talking about the things that she wants or needs. I don't know. It's fantastic. The presentation is perfect.
I guess this whole podcast is just me repeating that good romance is being trapped over and over and over again. I don't know if that's a healthy lesson, but one really cool thing about Toradora is the family circumstances of the characters push them into a relationship so hard, where the relationship actually makes both of their lives better in a really clear, direct way. Where one of my favorite parts about Toradora is Ryuji's mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, where she's a single mother who is doing degrading work and just can't do enough, where she's trying really hard, and overall she's a really good mom, but she sucks. Or it's just such a bad circumstance where even doing your best is only going to give a middling result.
Right.
And if you take Taiga and you take Ryuji and you take the stupid parrot and you take the mom and eventually you take the grandparents, it's like there's just enough to cobble together here to kind of create a functional family. Like, just barely.
Yeah, it's
yeah, because both of her parents suck too.
Yeah, they it's actually I'm trying to remember, like the dad is obviously like this very like unreliable person who's just kind of stuck her to live by herself basically in the city while he runs off and does his thing. And then I remember the mom
kind of wealthy.
Yeah, the mom's kind of appearing out of nowhere again to bring her back. Like, isn't the premise again that like the dad and the mom are trying to get back together?
I don't remember if they were trying to get back together or not.
I think Taiga has a delusional belief that they might get together eventually, but really the dad is just gallivanting around doing whatever the fuck he wants and is obviously going to get married to one of his floozies at some point. Okay,
that makes sense. No. I think it's really interesting observation in regards to the family element on Ryuji's side, especially. The mom is a great character. I don't harbor any bad feelings toward her whatsoever. She's made some bad decisions, but she does her very best to provide for him, even if it's in her own kind of haphazard way. She still loves her husband, even though he was, a criminal and basically left them. And when Ryuji gets mad at her...
That's kind of a spoiler, too. I mean, everyone's seen it, but he grew up thinking his dad was dead.
Yeah. Oh, it's fine. I quit recording like 40 minutes ago.
Wait, what?
Oh.
That was a joke.
Okay.
Oh.
But one of the most heartbreaking moments in the show, there's many, is when Ryuji gets mad at his mom in the street and basically that hits every single time.
Yeah, because you can understand every perspective there in that situation. Like, I get why you're mad, but she's trying her best.
Yeah, if only that mattered. Speaking of sexy old ladies, I'm watching a romance right now. Did I tell you about that?
Which one are you watching, Green?
I'm watching Natsuyuki Rendezvous.
Oh, I thought you were going to bring up Maison Ikoku. Because that is an older woman. That is an older woman, right? And it is a romance.
Yeah, that would have been...
And a widow. And a widow, too.
Yeah. Actually, fuck my thing, but we're going to talk Maison. Maison makes my spine hurt. I don't know why.
Why?
So, I don't know. Something about the romance is just like, fuck. God damn it.
Well, you can't say that. You still gotta like triangulate to like one thing that at least triggers it. You can't just say it's super frustrating and then like not give any.
It's just so frustrating because in Maison Ikoku, which if you don't know, it's the legendary super long runner from the Ranma 1/2 lady Takahashi, where it's just there's a student who goes to college and he's dumb and he lives in a little apartment building. Everyone there is an asshole. Except for the lady who runs the place, who is a woman like 3 years older than him, who had a husband who died, and they like each other, but do they really like each other? Who knows? And that's the whole shit. It's just that every episode for 95 episodes.
Well, I mean, you've watched like 20.
A little old. I've only seen 3.
Yeah, I've watched like 20, and I'm not even close to there.
Yeah. But you had a point of why it's frustrating, so that was just a little bit of like I'll definitely talk more about Maison Ikoku and pat it out a little for people who.
Maison just hurts because you know what? In a very literal way, watching Maison is like almost coming for 95 episodes.
Oh dear.
All right.
It's like 70 hours of edging, where with it relatively early in the show, they get to a place where they basically know that they like each other, but they just can't quite pull the trigger on it. And this is the problem with anime. Most anime, it's like, oh, do they like each other? They tease a relationship, but there's no emotional momentum to it. It's like, who's a classic pairing?
Ryuji and Taiga.
Now, god damn it, no. It's like, fuck. In most shows, they tease the relationship and then it doesn't really go anywhere. They go to 15% of the relationship being progressed and then they stop until the end of the show. Then they jump. In Maizani Koku, they go to 85% of the relationship being progress, and they hold it in fourth gear for 80 episodes.
Well, there are some peaks and valleys between episode 20 and episode 90. There are some
peaks and valleys, but when you're watching a shonen with some ninjas or some shit, you're like, oh, okay, these two are going to fuck eventually. Cool, we'll get there when we get there. Very good for Naruto and Sasuke.
Yeah, because there's...
I've never seen Naruto, so...
No, don't worry about it.
No.
Don't. You don't want to.
You know that famous shot of of Naruto and Sasuke at the very end of the show where they're laying down and they're all beat up and shit?
No.
And you can see their faces next to each other?
No.
Okay, no. Well, just out of frame, they're jerking each other off. That's how Naruto ends. But it's like the end of Devilman, actually.
Damn!
Where there's the reveal of the lower half. But that's what most shows do. In Maizani Koku, it's just like, if they said one word different, they would be married. It's not starting a relationship. It's like they could finish and have the relationship at any point if the main character wasn't just an asshole.
Well, I wouldn't argue that the main character is an asshole. In fact, I'd argue the main character actually is like very flawed, but fairly good-natured, actually. Like, Ataru in Urusei, I don't know how to fucking pronounce it. I just love the show. Urusei Yatsura or whatever is an asshole. Like, no, objectively is a fucking asshole. Like, almost irredeemably so. There's like 5% of him that's good and 95% is bad. I would argue that like Godai is very flawed, but he's not an asshole. He's just a coward. He's just an immature coward that lies too much. And yeah, that's not good. But none of it's coming from like a genuinely bad place. Now his neighbors are assholes. The tenants are assholes.
Neighbors are monsters.
Right, but he's easily the best of the bunch. A lot of people hate the tenants. I don't necessarily hate them. In fact, some of them I do find it, but they are assholes. Like they are objective, not irredeemably so. They have their moments at some point where they really could have fucked things up for him and they chose not to, like that type of thing. But yeah, like Godai is not. I don't like. Yeah, is it very frustrating to watch Godai muddle his way through this situation that is basically his own doing? Oh yeah, it's like. By the way, Maizani Koku is one of the most frustrating shows to watch because you're invested in it, and because it goes on for so long, and because there's so many misunderstandings and missed opportunities and things like that. Like, oh yeah, it's like deeply flawed in that. Is it still like a 10 out of 10 for me? Yeah. Definitely.
With Maizani Koku, it's honestly crazy because they come close so many times. It's like, by now, they should have started a relationship by accident.
Yeah, that would have been more realistic.
Like, they should have just misinterpreted each other's movements once and kissed by mistake and just went from there.
Yeah, but then you wouldn't have had 90 episodes.
Oh, no, good point. Because, how could the person who wrote Ranma 1/2 possibly support herself if she didn't keep the same manga going over and over and over?
Yeah, so many mangaka that were guilty.
Adaptation?
So many mangaka. Yeah, yeah, it's originally a manga. So
all of Takahashi's stuff started as a manga.
Yep.
Takahashi is like the it's weird she came up, but she's like the queen of romance. She can't not do it. Like, she wrote Inuyasha, which is it's a fantasy show. It's still mostly a romance.
Mm-hmm. Yep, agreed.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't ignore what I just said. John, did you like Maizani Koku? You watched a bit, right?
Yeah, I got through the first 3 episodes. It's fine. I don't know that I liked it as much as I did Midori Days, but
yeah, got through is not normally something with a positive connotation.
Yeah.
It's well, I mean, I got through all 95 episodes. Yeah, I think like even you've only seen basically a little more than a fifth of it, right? Green, your points still largely stand, although like there must be something you like about it if you were able to get through, considering how you don't like longer anime. Why you're able to get through 20 or 20 plus? So
right, I wouldn't say what I saw was bad either. It's just I think the other show stuck with me immediately, whereas this one seems like a slow burn.
Well, actually, Green's arguing it's a quick burn, that it's like the lighter is on, basically.
Yes.
And you're holding it too long, and you're burning out the lighter before actually lighting the cigarette, right?
Like
it's
the
like,
whole
it's like that.
first.
I'm holding a lighter right now. That's why I use the lighter analogy.
I was gonna say it's like the end of the Obi-Wan fight in Revenge of the Sith. Anakin is just crawling around on fire, just yelling, "Fucking Kyoko!
I hate you!"
Kyoko! Forget about your dead husband, Kyoko! I'm on fire.
Wow, this is all tough crowd. Pretty harsh.
Yeah.
That's a bad joke. Wait, R.A., did you say tough crowd because he didn't love Maizan?
Yeah, it is kind of a tough crowd because I understand. I understand because I think all the criticism of it are valid. But the problem is, and I can't believe I'm making. Well, actually, I can't believe I'm making this argument, but because I'm the type of person who, generally speaking, from the general wisdom, it's like if it doesn't grab you early, no matter how good it gets at the end, it's not worth pursuing. It's not worth wasting your time with. Like, but it gets really good around episode 20. It's like, why isn't it good now? That's the argument I use for 99% of the thing. But with Maison Ikkoku, it's like, no, the ending is so good that it made up for every other ounce of frustration that I had throughout watching this almost 100 episode show. It's that good.
I'm willing to believe that that's the case because there are other things where that's genuinely the case for something as well. Like, I remember when Final Fantasy 13 came out, a lot of people were like, it gets good 50 hours in. You're like, oh, great. You mean I have to play this game for 50 hours before there's any semblance of openness and I can explore a little bit? That's wonderful.
This is actually kind of relevant. I played fucking Catherine, the fucking game Catherine. Neither of you have played Catherine, right?
I have played. I played the original Catherine. I think you said you played the remaster or remake or whatever, the newer version.
Body, where they add a penis.
Yes.
I played Catherine. I learned that this is actually kind of typical for Atlas games, and Catherine is actually one of the less extreme examples. It was like 40 minutes before you could even start playing the game.
Never play Persona 4.
I won't.
Don't. It's at least an hour.
And the Catherine Full Body Edition was worse because they have an ad for the expanded crossover content before the game where you put in Catherine, you want to play Catherine, you think you're going to, okay, this is a psychological thriller about being a sheep and you can't decide what woman you want. And then there's just some lady in a bar spending 10 minutes telling you about the plot of Persona 5 saying, oh, you can play Joker in the competitive mode of this game. Isn't that cool? Don't you want to play one of our other characters in this game that you haven't played yet and you can't play it because I'm fucking talking to you about it instead of letting you play it?
It's all about building an atmosphere, right? It's not about the gameplay.
Well, Catherine's actually not about the gameplay.
Yeah, Catherine, it's just like, where's the game? Like, you realize that the word gameplay, there's, you're putting the gameplay in the game. It's like, you realize it's a game and not a show or a movie, right? It's like, yeah, well,
yeah, and it's one thing if you're going to be like Uncharted, where that's literally just playing an Indiana Jones movie as a video game. But
yeah, like the hybrid is fine, but like I don't buy into the argument that that a game where the gameplay is secondary to the game is a good game. It's a game. The gameplay should be good. If the gameplay is not good, it's not a good game. It's something else. Or good in other, I don't know.
Yeah, well, at that point, it's an interactive movie with a crappy game attached to it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it could have a great story. Like, it could genuinely still have that, but it doesn't make it a good game. It should have been something else. You're using the format a little incorrect. Anyway, sorry. I cut you off, John.
You're fine.
I will say really quickly, just to clarify real quick, if people don't know what Catherine is, go watch Zero Punctuation's video on it real quick. It was a pretty good one he did. But it's basically you're a guy who has a stable girlfriend. She's pushing you to get married. You have a fling with a random hot chick who has the exact same name. And you're indecisive and an asshole. And every night you have a dream sequence where you're a sheep man pushing around blocks. And your fears of commitment chase you in anthropomorphized form. That is Catherine. It's mostly about hanging out in a bar and just talking to your friends about how you hate having a girlfriend.
I will get right on that. Playing that. Sounds like a great time.
John, did you like Catherine?
I liked it when I played the original just because of how freaking weird it is. But I don't know how I'd feel about it now. Because that originally came out in 2013 or something?
Ancient.
No, it actually came out in 2011. I was looking up the release date.
Oh, I thought you were playing it again to remember.
No. I was pulling up when it came out. So it came out in 2011, which was shortly after I got a PS3. It's a very interesting combination of things that should not work, but it kind of does. I did not play the, whatever they called the remake edition, full body. So I know they added a bunch of stuff in that one. I don't know if that fucks with the pacing. It kind of sounds like it did, based on the way you were talking about it.
It's more confusing where it's really obvious where they add, because they just added another character. They just added another girl as a love interest. And you can totally tell where they tacked her on. Because when you go up to a character, their first line of dialogue will be like, hey, Rin's here tonight. She's playing piano. Isn't that crazy? Then half a second later, man, you told me I needed to come here and it was really important. Tell me about the dream you just had.
Oh, yeah, so it clearly worked in an extra line in front of the conversation before, and then it makes it kind of awkward.
They just staple, it's remember the new guy every 10 minutes.
Yeah, I could see how that might be kind of annoying, actually.
Yeah. And I found Rin to be a good presence in the game overall. It's just, it mostly made me curious about what the original game was like, because you can kind of see the shadow of the original game in full body.
And there's not like a original mode in there, is there?
No, that surprised me, actually. I would have thought there would have been. But no, if you play it, you have to do it. But the thing about the girl they added Rin, it's really confusing. She's there, she's in the plot, and she's actually in the gameplay, unlike the other girls, which I found very strange. But if you want to actually take the Rin path, you have to do a small number of very specific options. You have to answer the questions. When you pass levels and you go in the confession booth and the voice of God or whoever the fuck it is asks you questions about your mentality, you have to answer those in a very specific way at key moments to unlock the Rin path. And unless you do that exactly, it's like a 5% chance of it happening unless you do it on purpose.
Oh, that's kind of annoying.
Yeah, and the frustrating thing is they actually integrated Rin into the gameplay much more than the other girls. So it almost feels obvious that Rin is becoming the main girl, and then it just kind of trails off and goes nowhere unless you do the unlock thing.
Huh. That seems a bit weird.
It was. And it was really dissatisfying because she just kind of storms off and runs away. When you learn her secret. Do you know what the secret is?
I think I do.
Okay.
I was going to see if I could read that real quick.
She has a penis.
Yeah, used to be a guy. Or is it she's still a guy? I don't actually...
It's just a vague gender thing. They don't get into it that much.
Because I think I vaguely recall people being upset about one of her endings being you go back in time and convince her not to be trans or something. Yeah.
That's a very Japanese way of doing that.
And I might be thinking of something else, but...
Are you thinking of Steins Gate?
No, not quite, but that's technically a plot mechanic in that one too.
Such a weird chain of events in Steins Gate where they just wanted to have the joke where Okabe molested one of his friends, and so that character in universe gets to have their greatest wish fulfilled, and its whole purpose was for us to laugh at her getting molested by a mad scientist that she knows.
Yes, that's actually my biggest gripe with that entire story. Was that they worked in an actual gender swap by sending your mom's pager a message from the future to eat vegetables instead of meat.
Is that not how that works?
I have no idea, but for how pseudo-scientifically grounded they made the rest of that stuff sound when you go through it, it's just kind of jarring.
I mean, it was clever in Steins Gate that they figured out, the only real time travel would be sending information back in time.
Right, well, and that goes back to the limiting your options thing we were talking about earlier. It makes the plot much more interesting.
Yeah, because if you're not into penis, you only have two options in Catherine. Yeah, I have to say about Catherine... Or no, Catherine is this. Catherine is at the same time a not very great movie, a pretty okay video game, and amazing art. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, more or less.
Because the amazing thing about Catherine to me is how little role the girls actually have in Catherine.
Yeah, they're really like plot elements more than they are actual characters.
Because the conceit of the game is, okay, I have this stable girlfriend who has loved me for many years and is always pushing me to have more involvement in her life. And then this hot, sexy babe shows up out of nowhere, who I explicitly say is my ideal and seems really into me. I'm torn. And then it's like, oh, wait, is original Catherine pregnant? This might be interesting. That's the conceit of the game. But the girls only really show up briefly in cutscenes. In the parts of the game where you actually have investment and agency and are doing shit, the girls are not there. The vast majority of playtime in Catherine is either hanging out at the bar, talking to your friends, and just expressing the angst of being a young millennial shitbag living in a city, or you're in the fantasy sequences where the girls aren't there either. You're just working through your internal neurosis through metaphors of climbing up blocks and, asking, and then the demon voice asks you questions about what you value and what do you want in a partner. There's something really incredibly real about that, where in Catherine, the main character, he thinks he's in this romance. The actual thrust of Catherine is just him facing himself and who he is.
Right. It's more about a personal choice and my character than it is the other characters.
And it's a character who, at least in his romantic life, he lives almost entirely inside his own head. He really, the girls are not that big a part of his life in terms of his lived experience. His friends at the bar are they have way more access to who he really is and what he really cares about than either of the girls do. But Catherine still presents itself as being about marriage and about monogamy and about relationships. And I think that split, it makes Catherine really not work as an emotionally gripping narrative in the way it wants to be. But in terms of exploring what this guy actually is, I think that works perfect.
And it's really just a weird combination of things that you wouldn't think would work, but kind of do.
I like at the end how it gets supernatural and crazy.
Yeah, that too. I remember when it first came out, that made a lot of people mad. At least I saw people upset about it on forums, like, oh, here's this existential crisis about wasting the valuable years of a woman's life where she can reproduce. Okay.
I don't know what happened to R.A.
He's still muted, so I don't know if he's just letting us talk about Catherine or...
I'm just letting you talk about Catherine.
Okay.
Okay, we're not talking about Catherine then. I'm going to say we've been going for a while. I still kind of, if we have momentum, still kind of want to bring up Natsuyuki Rendezvous. But if you guys, if either of you have something to talk about, then by all means.
Well, let's go into it. I was going to make a final point about Maison Ikoku, although hopefully not make a belabored one because neither of you have finished it and neither of you like it that much.
Well, I haven't seen enough to know whether or not I won't like it. So,
I mean,
I like Maison. It's just I have to be in the right mood for Maison because it's a laid back show, but I also have to pay attention.
Yeah, I think I undersold it to some extent where I said that it's super frustrating and it made it seem like only the end is good. No, I very much enjoy watching that show. Is it very frustrating? In some ways, maybe the most frustrating thing I've ever seen. Yeah, but it's not like this horrible grind to just get to the end, which in the end is the only good thing. No, I genuinely enjoy watching the show. Do we care about spoilers here? I'm trying to avoid
not really. I mean, I think it's fairly obvious where it goes. So
I mean, not a huge spoiler because I want to watch it.
Okay.
Yeah, just thematically, I just think it's, especially with how it all ties in at the end. How thematically interesting it is in even ways that I can't even put into words, where there's just an emotional richness there that is both positive but also very bittersweet as well. And the thematic resonance is kind of more of a feeling that just kind of makes you wonder and kind of stare off into space rather than being like, oh, this is the XYZ theme. I can explain it to some extent. Godai becoming a a truly mature person, not just in the physical sense of like becoming more reliable, in terms of his life, having a plan, sticking up for himself, things like that, but also his emotional maturity, realizing that he has this picture of what he wants and love of, the very much ideal, come home from work, from your good job. It's a very sweet, like kind of very romantic, fun, young relationship type of thing. And him eventually realizing that he just can never have that. Like, I'm not saying he can't have a relationship with Kyoko. What I'm saying is that he can't, the relationship can never be that. Innocence has been lost. He can't restore Kyoko's innocence from her losing her former husband. It doesn't mean that what he isn't pursuing isn't worth pursuing. It doesn't mean that it isn't the best decision he's ever made in his life. But to some extent, it's him making peace with that loss of innocence, and that he can't be her whole world. They can't be young lovers or young newlyweds. There has to be something of like a rain cloud over it for this to happen. And it's also about Kyoko learning that, understanding that this is what she needs, that this is truly for the best for her to be in a relationship with Godai, and finding the courage within herself to make room in her heart for someone else, to some extent let another part of her, a former version of herself, die to allow her to move forward, even though Godai realizes that part of her can never die, no matter like how much she tries to change it. He can never have all of her. He can only have some or most of her. But I think the theme is very resonant. It's not the only anime that does it, of like how falling into love and making a commitment in love is in some ways, stepping over the line of trepidation of being in love but not actually making it something real or official. And crossing that line can be an act of incredible courage, and one that's not taken lightly. And there are a few key scenes near the very end of the show that really hammer that home and make you understand how much emotional weight is going into this in a way that I just don't think Toradora can compare with. It's like, by the way, I think the kiss scene. The kiss scene in Toradora, I think, is the best.
Just fuck Toradora.
No. But I think Toradora from episode to episode, Toradora is way better than Maison Ikkoku. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's fairly efficient. You can knock it out in a couple days if you really need to. It's investing. There's not too much like side bullshit. Like the kiss scene in Toradora is probably one of the most emotionally perfect. It's certainly the best first kiss scene, I think, that I've seen in anime. But yeah, there's like there's a very warm place in my heart for Toradora and some key moments that I'll never forget, and I love it to death. But the thematic and emotional richness of Maison Ikkoku like easily outweighs Toradora, to the point where it's like there's still all these mysterious feelings that it conjures that I just don't really understand and may never understand, because I'll just never be in live these characters' experiences. And it just stays with you, and it just doesn't go away. It's like one of those things where it's like, oh, wow, this is amazing. I love this. But you know how you have shows like that where, your feelings for it wane over time? But Maison Ikkoku is more like I still just find myself thinking about it like a lot. And even in times and areas where it's just totally unprompted. And I just think that's like a mark of greatness that just has a lot of truth behind it.
Yeah.
Will your experience vary? Of course. Okay. But that's my last word on the voyage of Maison Ikkoku and why it's all worth it.
And there are always shows that feel personally important, even if watching them isn't always the most fun. Mm-hmm. Like there are some shows where, I mean, I just wrote this on my Mal page, which I finally made, as a 28-year-old man. Saying mostly because I got sick of not remembering what shows I've seen when people ask me.
Yeah, that's honestly one of the biggest reasons I made mine. Is just, oh wait, fuck, what have I watched?
Well, I mean, I pushed you. Give me some credit here, Green. You would not have made it if I had not pushed you into it. Maybe you would have someday, but
You're not the first person to complain. You're the first person to complain whose opinion I value. Sorry.
Okay. That's fair.
I wrote on Mal that for me, a 10 out of 10 is it's not just a show that's technically perfect. It's one that feels personally important.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had to resonate with you on some kind of spiritual or emotional level.
Yeah, like Kaiji is one of those to me. It's like Kaiji feels personally important. It's like I feel a special connection to that show. It's like I understand my life better watching Kaiji. In that same vein, it's fucking Strongest Man Kurosawa, which is right behind Midori Days in terms of being my favorite manga. It might even be a tie. Who knows? Strongest Man Kurosawa, which is actually the Book of Job in anime form. It's so fucking personally important to like the person I have become. It's like the final scenes with Kurosawa like getting beat up and like having physical problems and fighting and shit. It's like I feel like I'm watching myself do that. Like when I read the end of Strongest Man Kurosawa. Like there have been moments in my life where I was just like really despondent and alone, and I just like read the final chapter of Kurosawa. It's like, yep, that's how life is, man.
Damn.
Yeah.
No, I think your definition of 10 out of 10 is probably about the best one that someone could have. I really just don't think that technical competence matters nearly as much in terms of determining.
And like for me, that's what Bebop is. Bebop is a perfect show, but it doesn't feel personally important to me in the way it does for a lot of people, it seems. So I'd say Bebop's like a strong 8. Like it's perfect. It's the best anime. You're completely entitled to say it's a 10 out of 10, and I'll support you actually doing that. It's just for me, I'm going to get into this at some point, maybe with you, who knows? But Bebop, just the only part of Bebop that has like that really strong punch, like, oh, fuck yeah, is the ending of Bebop. Well, and it's like I can't give a 10 out of 10 to something that I only feel that like at the very end.
Oh, I mean, my counter argument, well, the two would be just like I think that there's really at least 2 moments of that in Cowboy. It's obviously the end, but also, I think we know the scene with Ed,
like the last
and the crew,
like the last 3 episodes.
Yeah, like if you consider that the end, then like you, yeah, like that. Like there's few moments in anime that just hit like that. It's just there's no question. But my other
Ed leaving was so fucking
what?
Ed leaving was so much worse than everyone dying and fucking getting shot.
No, it wasn't. But in terms of the iconic, like, is the ending of Bebop more iconic than that? Yes, but in terms of like the emotional richness. It's that moment in Bebop that does it for me. It's like, that's the one that like sells it. Even though the ending is fucking incredible, right? There's a warmth in my heart for that moment, even though it's so sad. But it's so hopeful too. It's like so shitty and so mysterious and so good all at the same time that I don't know. It's just, it's incredible. It's just so incredible. I forget what my second counter argument was. I forget what my second counter argument was in regards to.
I think it was an argument.
Point, counter, measure.
Okay.
Measure.
Speaking of fantasy.
I mean, we'll
No, go ahead.
About the Maizan Ikoku thing, about it sounds like the realization that the dead husband is like there's just space in her heart that's never going to be freed up for Godai.
Yeah.
I think that's really mature because that's always an element of romance, especially, in the 21st century and America and stuff. It's you always are competing with the other people that, the person has cared about. It's like the perfect idealized relationship. That was always something iffy, but it's just that just like basically never happens now.
Right. Well, and you also have to consider you really shouldn't expect 100% of a person too.
Well, fair.
And I'm not talking about commitment or anything, but like they have their own worries and responsibilities that aren't all about you.
Well, but I also want to make it very clear to like everyone here that it's not the ending of Maison is not the cliche of like, real relationships have problems and like, you should expect less of others. It's just like, no. what they have is incredible. They need each other, but the lessons that come from it will always be hard to swallow, and it's about lost innocence, and it just can't be what the idealized version would be. And like, yeah, you're absolutely right. It's like, especially in this society, right? Everyone's going to have some dark parts in their past. And like, I understand how it aligns there, but it's like, no, it goes deeper than that. It's just this incredible concoction of like, it's even the end result is even more than just the sum of its parts. And it just kind of leaves you dumbfounded, like in a way that just kind of carries on forever. And again, it's not an unhappy ending. That's not what I mean. It's not a sad ending. It's bittersweet. So,
I don't necessarily think so. I will say that my first husband died, and that's why I'm with you. There's something that's always going to be especially hard about that.
Yep.
Where on some level you're a replacement, or you know that the actual good ending would have been you never were in the picture to begin with.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, actually. But go ahead.
It's like there's always going to be something in the back of the other person's mind of, my life actually going well would have been my first husband lived and we just had a good relationship forever. Doesn't mean I don't love this guy, but on some level, I regret the fact that we ever got together.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes it sound shittier than it is as well, too. But you're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely right. I think you make it.
No, I'm the ultimate doomer when it comes
that's
to
not even really a doomer position,
but there is
though.
And again, that's why I kind of say there is a bittersweet. There is a little bit of that. I'm making it sound like it's this overwhelming, like, storm cloud hanging over, and it's like, no, it's not. It's like what they're doing is so worthwhile and so good for them, but it is extraordinarily hard. Like, Kyoko has to get over some reservations and personal barriers. Like, we all like to preserve a past version of ourselves to some extent because we're scared of moving forward. And her picture of who she is has to be totally reorganized to be a decent wife to Godai. But she also can't be the perfect wife either. She can't give 100% of herself. And she has to live a little bit in both worlds of like, hey, I'm going to put in the effort here. I'm going to make this step. I'm going to be good. And I do genuinely love him and enjoy it. But I always have to have a toe in the past too. And Godai has to come to grips with that. And he does come to grips with it in a the best scene in the entire show is him doing that. And I actually remember my other counterpoint initially to you, Green, was that, like, you need more than one or two of those moments to be a 10 out of 10. Like, no. Maida Koku alone is a 10 out of 10 because of that. Like, it is. Like, for me, at least. Obviously, again, your mileage is going to vary. And if you get to the end and I oversold it to you, I'm deeply sorry. I'm sorry I wasted 90 episodes of your time. But, like, in some ways it really is, even though it's not the most efficient. In terms of what it does, it hits harder than any other romance.
Yeah, well, you can't always efficiency max, right?
Right.
That's too realistic or unrealistic.
Like, Midori Days is a partially great show because it never wears out its welcome. It's only like 12 or 13 episodes.
Yeah,
which is great.
That definitely helps.
Like, if you want something excellent from start to finish, there's not a huge time investment. Like, yeah, Midori Days, absolutely. If you want enjoyable, but you want willing it for the long burn for the payoff at the end, that's what you got to do. But I would argue, like, you're incomplete in your rom-com or romances in general, not itinerary, just resume. Like, if you don't get to the end, I'm just saying. So anyway,
I will eventually. I'm going to be an older man by the time it happens, but I'm getting there. It's actually deeply unfair to actually both of you because I'm younger than either of you.
Yeah.
Well then. I knew you were younger than me.
I'm an old man, so it's okay. The guys are 32 in fantasy, and they're like, this is a story of an old guy and an old guy who's now a girl. This is like, damn, they're 32.
Fuck you, show. I'm so sick of the old person being my age.
Well, to Zoomers you are. Anyway, I'm actually glad you actually brought up. I don't know how you say the first part of it, but like something rendezvous. How do you say the name of it?
Natsuyuki, I think.
Natsuyuki Rendezvous, because it's so similar in its setup to Maison Ikoku.
Yeah,
it is.
I was thinking that.
Obviously, there's supernatural elements to yours that are not in Maison Ikoku, but go ahead. So take it away. You're the expert.
Yeah, there's supernatural elements in Maison as well, like how it takes so many years for nothing to happen. But
you just had to get your last. You had to get your last. I will accept it. Yeah, it's your show.
Yeah, it's like Maison is hard sci-fi. It has time dilation, but Natsuyuki Rendezvous. It's something that actually the video where I learned about Midori Days from, that one that Mother's Basement made a long time ago, just recommending random romances.
Good video.
It is. I found a couple shows I like from it, including my favorite manga. Yeah, Natsuyuki Rendezvous is about a guy who just sucks. He has Kumar eyes. He has stupid hair that he wears a dumb, dirty hat over. He has nothing really going with him. He's not very charismatic. He wanders around and he goes to a plant store all the time where there's a woman who is 8 years older than him, who is about 30, who is just a cute older woman with short hair. He develops an infatuation with her and keeps going. And one thing that I love is his house in the first episode is filled with plants because he keeps going there every day and buying a plant to have an excuse to talk to her, even though he knows nothing about plants. So when they cut to his apartment, he has like 20 plants that he doesn't know how to take care of that are just haphazardly sitting on top of stacks of newspaper scattered around the room, which is a great, great gag because that's literally what I am doing. The recent, the order is a bit reversed, but when I look behind me, I have my giant metal greenhouse thing that I've been working on. Because my greenhouse is the only thing in my life that has been making progress going well. Yeah, I know, right? Oh, no, the people at the stores, when I tell them my name is Green, they think it's fucking hilarious. Like, your name is Green and you go around buying plants all the time? That's so funny. It's like, I know, right? It would be really funny if I had this whole online persona where I'm like a druid, mystic, mushroom-taking fucking Gaian energy man who's also like depressed and greedy. That would be funny.
You have to use. Okay, go ahead.
And a squirrel.
I am also the squirrel of God, but that's an unrelated matter. No, my name being Green is just a cosmic joke because it came before the plant thing. So I've been going to plants all the time. I was actually going to several nurseries today, and I bought a few plants that I'm going to add to the rotation. Replace the ones I killed and expand. I don't go to the plant stores because the girls are cute, at least not primarily. But that has very clearly become part of the motivation. So in a way, I am doing what this guy's doing, just in an impotent, silly way. And that was a total coincidence before I watched the show. I did not know he did that before I watched it.
Yeah, the number of coincidences involved is really funny because it's like you're going from Maison Ikoku to this, which has a similar at least courting a widow setup, and then also your personal life reflecting into. So it's like this incredible Venn diagram of stuff.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like you're peeking into the deep mechanics of how life works somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, it's like that one guy said there is no such thing as a coincidence.
Yeah, Master Oogway, who's a turtle, or are you thinking of an actual good person?
I'm thinking of the internet celebrity, John. Is that who you're thinking of? The
dude who was in the woods.
The black dude with the really prominent eyes who gets really close to the camera.
Shit. Oh, I thought we were talking about Kung Fu Panda.
Nope, sorry.
Oh, damn it. Well,
Anyway, let's let you finish actually explaining the premise of the show.
Oh, yeah, the show. But then, we're not even to the good part yet. More coincidences, actually. But then he sees that she's hiring for a part-timer. Mm-hmm. And so, in a very creepy, awkward move, he becomes an employee at the store, and as they go along, he's just in love with her, and he's a very awkward guy. He is lanky, he's tall, he's not very handsome, he doesn't respond very fast when you talk to him, he's not clever. He has very little going for him, other than the fact that he's kind of tall and likes plants, I guess, or at least pretends to. And he just kind of casually drops at one point, being like, hey, maybe you should have an affair with me. That could be cool. And she's flattered, but kind of like, wait, what? And they just kind of wander off. And a relationship very awkwardly starts, but then it is interrupted by the appearance of the ghost of her dead husband, who floats around being annoying. And he just does dumb shit. Like, he'll be in the room with the widow, the plant lady, and they'll be leaning on a couch. He's about to like lean over and kiss her or something, and he'll just put his dumb ghost head right in front of hers. Be like, huh? You want to look at an old dead guy while you make out with my wife there? No, you're not going to, because it's gross. You're going to be looking at my face while you do it. And they just have a very bitchy, bickering relationship where, from her perspective, the guy is just insane.
Yeah.
Oh, so she can't even tell that there's a ghost there?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely.
Oh, okay.
The whole thing starts where they're going to go run errands and buy party supplies for someone who's leaving to go off and live in another country. And he shows up at her house, goes in, and she's standing there with a little bit of jam on her cheek. And he's like, oh, that's weird. Then a man in his underwear just shows up and stands next to her and just stares him down and be like, yeah, motherfucker, what are you doing here? I'm standing here naked. What, you going to do anything? And he just kind of looks at him awkwardly. And the young dude who can see the ghost, but the wife can't, he's just like, wow, I see what this is. This is bullshit. I'm leaving. And from her perspective, he just came in and said that for no reason. And so from the poor woman's perspective, she has this semi-retarded schizo autist need that she was nice enough to give a job, who randomly said he was attracted to her. And she's kind of going along with it a little bit, but he's constantly yelling at shadows, getting mad at her for no reason, and just generally doing bizarre, crazy things. And he's not that cool or interesting to begin with.
Right.
And it's a great show. Because it's such a realistic relationship where it starts for almost no reason, is confusing, and the people are just kind of feeling each other out and don't really know what's going on.
It sounds like the only drawback to it, in terms of like me, this is like a very personal, like me watching it. It doesn't even have anything to do with like the show being bad. It's just, it almost reminds me too much. Like, if you kind of view anime as kind of an escape to some extent, it's definitely not, doesn't sound like an escape, where it's kind of this like weird fumbling and feeling things kind of just happen, and this feeling of each other out, and it's embarrassing to some extent, and there's no real certain, I mean, it's a romance, right? So there obviously has to be like building of it, but you're right, it's like you said, it's like the perfect relatable, because it's so relatable and so realistic, despite the supernatural element. I'm like, oh, like I will watch it. Like it's been on my radar for a while, so I will watch it.
It's amazing because it's a romance between people who are not that attractive, played really realistically.
Just like me, for real.
Oh, yeah! Just like RA for real, yeah! But...
yeah, no, actually, this is hurting my feelings now. This guy is me. Where's my old lady?
I didn't.
What the fuck?
Continue.
Sorry, we're all out of old ladies.
I'm interested. I'm interested. No. I don't want to get it off track. Like I am genuinely interested in hearing like why you think the show's great. So go ahead.
Well, it's a relationship between people who don't have a lot of options or a lot in their lives, where the woman is sweet and cute, but neither of them are very strong personalities. They don't have very strong opinions. They don't have strong interests. She really likes plants. That's about all her thing. She just likes gardening. Mm-hmm. And so they're very normie-ish, frumpy people. And the guy is just kind of a sleazy dirtbag. Like, he's just someone who would just sit in a basement somewhere staring at the ceiling and jerking off. Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe not at the same time, but it's a very realistic relationship where they have nothing going on. So you're rooting for them to get together, because even if neither of them are anything special, it's still an improvement. Obviously a win. Yeah, it's a W for both of them, even if this relationship is weird and shaky. But the ghost guy just keeps being an annoying fucking dick. And actually, like the fantasy knockout show, around the middle of the show, main character gets drunk, collapses on the floor. It looks like there's a situation where maybe he's going to have a shot at having sex with the lady. Oh, that's also great. relatively early in the relationship. They're just sitting at a park. They're sitting at a cafe somewhere, just eating some pudding. And he just kind of goes like, hey, can I fuck you? And she's like, no, silly. We're not doing that yet. And it's like, oh, okay. Just back to food. Which I love how realistic their interactions are, because they constantly have moments that in most anime would be the pretense for a crazy, over-the-top, pissed-off reaction. But it's just, no, we're not going to do that. It's just the little awkwardness of real people, of where people push boundaries and you just gently shut them down rather than throwing a big fit over it. But the dude, it looks like he's finally going to get his shot. He collapses on the ground. He's all drunk. And the ghost is like, hey, can I borrow your body for a bit? And he's like, yeah, sure, man, whatever. Because he's just drunk and not paying attention. And then the dude gets possessed by the dead husband, who's just been a prissy, interfering bitch this whole time. And then the whole middle of the show, it's almost a little weird to watch the show because the main character is absent for a significant portion of it. Yeah. The whole middle of the show is the dead guy walking around in the new boyfriend's body, hanging out with his ex-wife from when he was alive, just being melancholic and trying to process the fact that this is creepy and he probably can't do it for very long. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, I have not finished the show. I'm entering the last few episodes now. But it's just such a... I don't even know if it's fun. It's an interesting concept because everyone in this situation is fucked. They're appreciating each other in weird ways. While the ghost possesses the new boyfriend, they kind of start to realize that they kind of see each other as friends in a weird way. Mm. And it almost starts leaning towards a passing of the torch, MILF person. I don't know. No. But I'm very interested to see how the show ends. Because where I left off, it's just in the drama of the ghost is in the new boyfriend's body going, okay, when do I leave? How long do I do this? Like, how long do I stay with my wife before I have to face reality of I'm fucking dead?
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the most, I don't want to say cohesive, but like the most, like that is a strange artistic decision to like just take your main character out and then just insert another like important side character, right? And that's just like he's now the protagonist for the significant section of the show. Like that is a strange artistic decision, but it does sound very interesting too, because it gives a whole new kind of opportunity to explore. Like, right. Think about it. Like, what if you were dead? Like, right. And then you were watching everything, and then suddenly you had access to a body, right? It's almost its own show, right?
Yeah, it logically should have been. It's been like a separate thing.
It's not that it's bad. In fact, it sounds quite good and quite interesting. It's just a different thing. It's a totally different lens. Again, very thematically interesting. And like, well, what would you do in that? What if you knew you had only a small amount of time left and you could interact with the people you loved before?
I think the implication is that he could do this until the guy died of old age.
Oh, interesting.
It's just his decision of, am I actually going to do this? And again, from the poor widow's perspective, she's just dating a schizophrenic madman. Right. Because all of a sudden, he gets a haircut, starts dressing like her ex-husband used to, and starts calling her by the nickname that the husband did.
Oh, my God.
Which he logically should have no way to know about.
Right, exactly.
And does she not even make a big deal about that? Or...
Well, she's used to him acting insane all the time. So for her, it's just like, oh, I guess he did this. We're just doing this now. She just, again, she doesn't have any options. And she's a very over it personality. So she's just like, yeah, of course this would happen. Of course my new boyfriend would start acting like my ex-husband for no reason. Just, okay, bye. And he'll just say creepy stuff, or he'll suddenly become a workaholic where he was lazy before. From the female perspective, this show is just about, after you're 25, you have no options and you just have to take what you can get.
Okay.
Oh, God. Oh, that's so brutal.
The dead person has more options than the live woman.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Although... Again, it's kind of like the end of Maizani Koku. It's about everyone in the situation is damaged. How are we going to get through this with the least amount of heartbreak we can probably do? Because it's not addressed in the show so much, but on a meta level, you kind of understand, okay, for this to resolve, we need to get the dead husband to the point where he can just fade into oblivion and meet God or whatever the fuck happens to the ghost. We have to get the woman to the point, which she is gradually getting there, but the dead husband's making it fucking harder.
Yep.
She's slowly getting to the point where she's ready to move on and just start with the guy. And she starts the relationship with the young dude. She's just taking it really slow and being cautious. Mm-hmm. Like, it's on track to work out. She's just, being tentative. Yep. And then we have to get the young guy to the point where when he gets rid of the ghost, like, the ghost is the problem. Like, everything would be fine if not for the ghost.
Right.
So it's almost a trade-off of how do we situate this fucking demon that is, cock-blocking us all the time and just ruining everyone's lives, but also we kind of like him as a person and he died of cancer or some shit, so we feel bad for him. So it's the trade-off of how much do we let him haunt the new relationship and steal from the future to get rid of him in a way that is satisfying?
Right, like he's got to accept his situation and come to peace with it to actually pass on.
And the whole middle section of the show, the tension is how much is dead guy going to steal from the new relationship? There are several episodes where you're wondering, like, is he going to have sex with her for the first time and the guy's not even going to remember it? Like, is he actually is he going to steal them having sex for the first time? Which, for all you know, it could be that guy losing his virginity. Like, you don't know.
Right. And you'd be taking that moment from him if he doesn't get to remember it.
And that's the genuine tension, because it's you have two people in a really unfair situation, and you can't give to one without taking from the other. And, living guy gets to live on and have the whole rest of, the old lady's life ahead of them. She'll probably die first. But the other guy, he was a really good dude who was really fucked over in his last life. He probably deserves better than he got. So it's like, how far can dead guy push this before we stop liking him? And it's more complicated by the fact that MC starts liking dead guy a little bit. So, yeah.
There's a friendship.
It's so relatable.
I mean, it is an interesting dynamic, though, that...
Yeah.
I mean, if the dead guy really loves his wife, and this sucks, right? It's like, well, a hard truth. If he really loves his his former wife, he has to move on. He has to pass on, right? Because he's dragging her back into something that he's making a selfish choice and trying to deprive her of the opportunity of moving on. And he has to get over his selfish interest, basically, to allow that to happen. And it's like, is it another shitty, unfair, truth of existence? Yeah. But he can only really delay this, right? And serve as an asshole who basically just gets in the way of it because it's emotionally validating for him. So, no, I think it sounds very interesting to me.
Yeah, it actually sounds like a great premise.
It's not a perfect execution. Like, it's a rough show in many places, but in its way, it's a very charming little show. I'm very, very excited to finish it. I'll probably do that now, or in 10 minutes.
It's still it's still in print too, unlike Midori Days. So, which is nice.
It's an anime, sir.
You can call DVD or Blu-rays in print.
It's out of print if it's not manufactured anymore.
Yeah, you can still technically correct.
Out of what would it be instead? What would it out of manufacture? Out of production?
I thought RA was putting little pieces of paper in his DVD and hitting play and wondering why it wasn't working.
I'm not
when I bought a copy of Destiny 2 for PC when that came out, and instead of a disc, it was a cardboard cutout in the shape of a disc that had the download key on it.
Get fucked.
It's great. That is almost as bad as calling cars the horseless carriage. The concept is gone.
The concept is gone.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we probably need to start wrapping this up. Someone has to do a raid group in the near future, I believe.
In about 12 minutes.
Yeah, so I mean, this was fun as a first attempt with, fresh people who don't know how to do this or don't do this that often.
Yeah, I would definitely like to try again because it's a skill you have to develop.
Yeah, it's like what they say about sex. Try it at least twice.